going on that I'm going to guess you're not immediately concerned with sticking around for. We're going to move stuff up to the front of things that you are concerned about. That way we can discuss those then. If you want to stick around for public comment, you're welcome to do that. But we at least wanted to let you deal with the resolution and the bill, which I think most of you are here for. So we'll do that up front. Then if you wish to exit and go enjoy the rest of your Monday evening, you're free to do so. If you want to stick for the meeting, you're always welcome to come to a county council meeting. We do them twice a month normally, and it's nice to see you. So with that, we will get started here in just a second. I want to make sure Ashley is good to go. Is Casey Peterson here, by the way? Hey, Casey. Cool. Just double checking that you're here. I'll introduce you in just a second. It's always good to make sure the person who's going to pray for us is in the room. Tonight may be a special. So with that, we will call tonight's County Council meeting to order. We will start with our invocation by the aforementioned Casey Peterson, who's here from Church on Main. Thank you for joining us and praying for this evening. We will also have Pledge of Allegiance, which is led by Councilman Dave Hammond. I would ask you all to please stand, remove your caps. Casey, floor is yours.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here together tonight. Lord, we pray that everything that happens here tonight, every word that is said and every decision that is made, and all of the conversation before and after everything that occurs would be to honor your name and to make your name great. We pray that you would provide the needs that people are here for. We pray that you would provide what is needed as far as wisdom. We thank you for these public servants who have dedicated time and the gray hairs on their head to making decisions. And Lord, we pray that the decisions that they make would honor you. I pray that all of the tone of conversation and all of the comments are comments that understand that they are subject to your authority as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. I pray that authority of the public servants here would be honored, but most of all that the authority of our Lord Jesus would be honored. God, we pray for forgiveness in the areas where we have made mistakes or been wrong. We pray for humility and know that we don't know all the answers, but you do. And we thank you that you have given us this great country, the United States of America, and we pray that you would help us to steward it well. And I pray especially for those in front of me and the great responsibility that falls on their shoulders. I thank you that we can call on your name, and I pray that you would bless us. It's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Casey. Well done.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. And by the way, that was really cool to hear that many voices saying the Pledge of Allegiance. With that, we will do roll call.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel. Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Nancy Schneider.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
Just a point of interest, Mr. Brazel is under the weather, so you may want to say a prayer for him, so that's why he is not with us this evening. So with that, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to move resolution number 21-02 to the front of the agenda.
And do you want to include?
I would also want to move bill number
4964?
4964 also to that position.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor to amend the agenda?
Aye.
All those opposed? We will move forward with that. So we will start off by moving forward with resolution number 2102. Donna?
Resolution number 2102, sponsored by Joe Cronin and Joe Brazel, a resolution of St. Charles County Council regarding mask mandates, contact tracing, and quarantine in schools. Whereas Article 6, Section 18C of the Constitution of Missouri provides that county charters may provide for the vesting and exercise of legislative power pertaining to any and all services and functions of any municipality or political subdivision except school districts. And whereas St. Charles County Council is the legislative body for St. Charles County. And whereas the St. Charles County Council has not issued any mask mandates and under current law does not have any authority to order contact tracing or quarantines within school districts. And whereas the St. Charles County Council believes that consideration must be given to the wishes of parents in determining the wearing of face masks by students. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of St. Charles County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the St. Charles County Council hereby affirms that it has no authority to regulate school districts, that authority being reserved to each school district's elected school board and state of Missouri, and has not issued any mask mandates or contact tracing or quarantine orders to school districts.
Thank you very much. So Mr. Cronin and Mr. Brazel introduced this resolution, but before we get into discussion on this, I want to thank them for bringing this forward because there's a lot of things that I thought I knew, and I think I knew most of them pretty well, but there was some clarity that really needed to be cleared up on this. So I reached out to staff and the administration asking for just some definitions about who's responsible for what, and want to kind of get that lay of the land laid out just from an education purpose, since we're talking about education, and then we will discuss the resolution. So, Mr. Ellman, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're absolutely right. You and I spoke about this. I had spoken to at least one person and tried to explain the situation as I understood it at the time, but even admitted then I wasn't quite sure and I needed to go back and check. You've had several questions. You've suggested to me people were asking good questions, and I think it will be very helpful just to get the answers out there. And, I appreciate the fact that all of you have received many, many emails and phone calls on this. That's all I can say is for the last 8 months, my office has received a lot of emails and phone calls wanting to go just the opposite direction, okay? And I asked my staff to do a quick count today, and since last July, we have had 355 emails asking us to adopt a mask mandate, and 558 phone calls usually asking, sometimes demanding, that we adopt a mask mandate. And as you're all going to find out, we have not and do not intend to. But we want people to understand what is going on, who they do need to talk to if they want relief in this particular issue. And I've asked Joanne to go ahead and look at the documents that are out there, the state of the law and so forth, and give you sort of an update. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So,
Can you pull that mic to you, Joanne?
yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, because Robert appropriated mine. So as you had asked, what the state had out there, and there's any number of documents that explain this. Ashley, if you can bring up those three that we asked be prepared for tonight. The first one, hang on just a moment. There we go. The first one is a document that the state put out there, and I apologize, it's hard to read, is that the State Department of Education put out a Q&A sort of document. They last updated it on November 19th, but they said, is a school mask mandate required? And the answer is clearly no. School mask mandates are not required. The decision to require masks is made at the local level by school administrators and school board officials. However, schools must have a mask mandate for the updated guidance to apply to individuals identified as close contacts to a case at school. So if you can go to the next document, please. So this is a page out of a guidance that the Department of Health and Senior Services and the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education put out. And it's on the issue of mask mandates. And again, what they say in there is that if a school has implemented a mask mandate and the appropriate masks were being worn correctly by both individuals during the time of exposure in the in-school setting, the individual who came in contact with the person with COVID-19 can continue to attend school. And that's the core of this. With the approval of the governor's office, the two state agencies that oversee public health and oversee the schools put out this requirement that in order for people who have come in close contact with somebody who is either symptomatic of COVID-19 or who has tested positive, that the only way that they can stay in school and come into the schools is if the school has a mask mandate, enforces the mask mandate, and in the circumstance as the contact tracing happens, that the people were actually wearing mask mandate. And in accordance with this, they put out, if you can go to the next page, Ashley. They put out actually a kind of graphic to point out that if you have someone who's COVID positive and everybody's wearing a mask and the person who's positive is wearing the mask, then the children can continue to stay in school, and in fact, the teachers can continue to come in school if they were the one who was the close contact. If the person who's positive wasn't wearing a mask, even if the other people who were close were, they have to quarantine. If some people who are close contacts are wearing masks and others aren't, if the person who's positive is wearing a mask, then the children who were also masked or the other adults who were also masked can stay in school. And then finally, if nobody's wearing a mask, everybody has to quarantine. So the state since November has been very clear that this is something that they put in the hands of schools to make a decision that while there's no mask mandate in the state for schools, there's no mask mandate at all in this county that the county has applied, other than to its own employees in its buildings, that the only way that kids can stay in school is if the school has adopted its own mask mandate and is enforcing it.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to add to that?
No, and again, we had the schools approach us on going along with the governor's plan. And we worked with the schools, and you all remember that it was back in late November, early December. Again, they were in favor of going with the governor's plan. I thought it was great. I'm told now that if we hadn't done that, a lot of educators don't know that they would have been able to keep the schools open. And as we've been talking amongst each other for a long time, I'm very proud of the fact that the school districts in the county have made every effort that they could, and we've done everything we can to help them keep the kids in school. So.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. With that, I would kick it to Mr. Cronin for discussion.
Yeah, myself and Mr. Brazel started getting a lot of phone calls in the last week or so about a Wentzville Middle School that there were some quarantine orders that came out from the health department. At that time, I was under the understanding that the health department was given recommendations and not orders. And a recommendation I'm fine with. If you want to wear a mask, you should be able to wear a mask. If you don't, I get that too. But so Mr. Brazel and I did start doing some research, and I think with our county councilor, about what we're allowed to do as a county council and what we're not allowed to do as a county council. And you're not going to like to hear this, and I didn't like to hear what I heard either, but long and short of it is, as a county council, we don't have the power, okay, to tell the schools what to do. They're a separate political body, and this resolution just pretty much states that, okay? Now, should we be telling the schools something? That's a whole nother argument. I don't know much about public schools and how they're run. That's what school boards are for, and they're a separate elected body. So I really believe that the health decisions
that are made for these schools should be made by the school boards and the parents who elected those school board members. That being said, there is legislation at the state capitol, Senator Onator and Senate Bill number 12. He was also joined by a bunch of other senators on Bill number 20, 21, 31, 56, 67, and 68. They're trying to take the power away from the appointed health director for a county to issue quarantine orders at schools and health orders at school, and put it in a legislative body like this council or your local school board. I think that's worth support, because I think healthcare professionals typically focus on health, and the education of kids are just as important, if not more important. In fact, I thought it was pretty interesting today in Wall Street Journal. One of the articles was, remote classes cost kindergartners critical learning and developmental time. So nobody wants their kid to get sick with COVID, but nobody wants their kid to fall behind in this competitive world we live in, okay? So that being said, the health director that's here tonight, he makes the calls on the quarantines at this Wood Middle School. I don't agree with what he did, okay? But he serves at the pleasure of the county executive, not this council. So we've had long discussions with the county councilor about it, and this resolution just states, and we want you to know that we can't make these decisions under current Missouri law. However, you might want to contact your state reps and senators, because I do think of a decision made by a legislative body, there was a group of people from a lot of varied backgrounds like you have here, or a school board, is a lot better way to make a decision than one person. Think about taxes right now. All the discussion with President Biden wanting to raise our taxes. Would we want him to have the power to raise taxes? No, we want him to get approval from the House of Representatives and the Senate too. Well, right now, for a lot of people, sending your kids to school is as important to taxes as it would be for me. And the decisions whether your kid can go to school or not go to school are based on a quarantine order that is basically issued by one person, the county health director, under current state law. You have the opportunity to change that. If you want to change it, you need to go to your state representatives. I'd strongly encourage you to do so. But the resolution tonight just is basically stating that some of us may agree with you, some of us may not agree with you. I personally do agree with you folks, because I wouldn't want to see kids miss school, okay? But the same token is we don't have the power to do what you really would like, and we wanted you to know that. So that's why Mr. Brazel and I put together this resolution for y'all.
Any other discussion from council?
Well, I'd like for you, if you could, to kind of relay what Dr. DeBray at Fort Zumwalt School District kind of, informs you, or what his opinion was of, this situation.
Well, for those of you who don't know, the county executive gave a proclamation to Fort Zumwalt after the first 100 days of school, supporting the fact that we had 100 days of in-person school in our county, as opposed to all virtual school. And Dr. DeBray was here to accept that on behalf of all the school districts that were here. But I'm Fort Zumwalt School District, which I think we talked about on the phone, because I appreciate the fact that some of you have kids who are in elementary school and they don't like wearing a mask. Try having an 18-year-old senior daughter who has to wear a mask and lost her prom as a junior year, and then instead of having a senior prom, had a senior dinner. Yeah, that's a good conversation to have with your daughter, right? So Dr. DeBray sent out a letter on Wednesday that basically said, help us get through these last 15 days of school. And he has all intention, according to that letter, of this fall going back to business as usual and us being a regular school year again. So I'm glad you're all excited about that, but that means we have to get through these next 3 weeks. So as long as we get through these next 3 weeks, then we should be able to move on with business as usual. Did you have something else you wanted to add to that?
Well, I think that what he said was right on point. One thing he did say, though, was that at one point, when the COVID was at its very highest in the county, that there was something like a 30% infection rate. And in Fort Zumwalt School District, it was 2%. So in other words, probably the safest place to be, because of mask,
Was at a
was in a
school.
school. What? I know you disagree, but please.
They were with you
please.
until you said,
I know.
"And because of mask."
Yeah, well.
So, all right, hang on.
Again, please, that is, and we can argue about whether that was the result or whatever, but 30% compared to 2%, I think is a very, very meaningful separation. Please.
Hey, this isn't interactive time, all right? We'll have public comment in a little bit, so just sit tight with me for a little bit.
So that's just my point, and that's coming from the superintendent, of the largest or second largest school district in St. Charles County.
Those aren't facts, sir. That's an opinion. That's your opinion.
Sir,
God bless you.
I've asked you once, all right? This is not interactive. So you're here at our invitation. You cannot be here at our invitation as well. So I'm asking you to please be quiet, respect our opinions, and respect the authority that is a council meeting. You with me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was not giving my opinion, I was quoting the Fort Zumwalt School District superintendent, who has been the superintendent for close to 35 to 40 years.
Since
and
Jesus was in middle school.
That's his opinion.
So there you go. All right, anybody else? Hey, he's done a really good job. Anybody else have any thoughts on this? So I would point out a couple of things. First of all, I want to go back to the fact that we live in St. Charles County, who has never had a mask mandate. Your county executive, before you start applauding, that's great, but you need to understand, your county executive has taken a world of trouble over the fact that we were the only county in the St. Charles, or the St. Louis metropolitan area that didn't have one. So before people start thinking, boy, this really stinks to live out here, I think we're really lucky to live out here. I would also point out to you the fact that we are 100% open according to government restrictions in St. Charles County. Some other places claim they're 100% open, but you have to have 6 feet in between tables at restaurants, which means restaurants aren't 100% open because you have 6 feet in between tables and that stuff. If you choose to wear a mask, God love you, that's your choice. You choose to wear a mask. If you'll notice, no one required you to wear a mask when you came here tonight. So if you want to know how your county council feels, you're experiencing it right now. So there are a lot of ways for you to protect yourself, and whatever you feel that you need to do, I think you should be able to do to protect yourself and those around you. I would also point out, and this is me speaking personally, that I think we need to take a broader view and quit looking at everything through COVID spectacles, and I think you need to look at the entire health of a community, and that includes mental health. So I think if you want to take all that into perspective, I was talking with a teacher today who was talking about, he teaches virtual with most of his kids, and he said the majority of the kids that he had that are virtual are not doing well in the classroom. But the kids that he have that are in person are doing much better. So I think that speaks to the fact of our goal as a county, and it's been expressed by the county executive numerous times, is to keep our kids in school. Because I don't care how good your teachers are, if the kid is not in the classroom or not with the teacher, they can't teach them. You can't learn when you're not in school. In our county, we have school districts that lead the way in terms of attendance. They're all AAA rated school districts. They all do a really good job in educating our children compared to those in the rest of the area, I think. But I just wanted to get that across because sometimes we fail to appreciate our own backyard and we fail to appreciate how good we have it until we compare it to somewhere else. And sometimes it's good to just take a breath and say, thank God I live here. But that's my personal opinion. You guys are here. I appreciate the fact that you showed up. I appreciate the fact that you get involved. And I appreciate the fact that you voice your opinion. With that, I would ask if anyone else has anything else to add. Otherwise, I would ask the resolution be read and we vote. With that, go ahead.
Resolution 21-02, a resolution of St. Charles County Council regarding mask mandates, contact tracing, and quarantine in schools. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel? Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
So Resolution 2102 passes. You can clap, it's okay. Just want you to, we got 3 weeks left of school, and what we did not allow your kids to not wear masks anymore. I'm just trying to be clear, because I know you want to complain to somebody, and God love you, you can come up here and complain for 3 minutes if you want during public comment, but that's where we are. So now we'll move on to bill number 4964 for introduction.
Bill number 4964, requested by Joe Brazel, sponsored by Joe Cronin and Joe Brazel, an ordinance enacting a new section 210.025 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri relating to prohibiting mask mandates.
Mr. Cronin.
Okay, this one kind of came as the same part of the same discussion. Early on in COVID, maybe in the winter times in a crowded office building, there probably may have been some need that could be arguable whether you needed a mask or not. But we're getting in nice weather, and we've got county workers that work on stuff like equipment sheds, and they're working on trucks, and they're doing stuff like that. Similar business to that I run, my family business. And mechanics that are underneath the car working on a piece of equipment or a truck or whatever don't want to be wearing a mask, especially when the weather gets hot. So this thing simply just allows us to drop the mask mandate in county buildings. It does not say anything about what a private business can do, or a school, or anything else. It's just the private buildings, just the private buildings that are owned by the county, rather. I want to make it clear that this doesn't drop any mask mandate for schools, or cities, or libraries, or anything like that, because then again, we don't have the power to do that. If you think that's unfortunate, you need to contact the state reps, like I mentioned before, because there's ability to change that law possibly, but there's not for this. So this is just simply us deciding as an internal body for St. Charles County government, do our employees of this government have to wear a mask? Now, it gets introduced tonight. It doesn't get passed for 2 weeks. The COVID numbers have been dropping. More and more people are getting vaccinated. So, and weather's going to be hotter in 2 weeks. So I'm hoping that the timing will be just right, just about the time we get the 80, 85-degree weather, that the county workers will be happy that they don't have to wear a mask in county buildings anymore. And that's the extent of this. So it doesn't have as much ramifications as you might think it would.
Okay. Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
since Mr. Brazel isn't here, I'd like to ask that we table this bill.
Mr. Brazel actually asked, not to interrupt your motion, but he actually asked that we not, because he wanted to get it out and do there. So I'm just throwing that out
I
there.
withdraw
but-
my motion.
Very well. That was my mistake. I thought he would want to be here and talk more about that, but I talked to him earlier and he said no. Joanne,
Mr. Chairman, may I just make one note?
only if you pull that microphone around to you again. Sorry about that.
Reminder, I'm sorry.
Big crowd.
So we do have an instance, and we've been contacted by a couple of citizens about this, so I just want to clarify. So the operation of the courts in the court administration building on 2nd Street is only under our control in the areas where facilities maintenance is and where the prosecuting attorney is. The law in Missouri is very clear that the administration of justice areas, and I'm sure the judge remembers this, are actually under the control of the Chief Justice of the Missouri Supreme Court, then the presiding judge of the Eastern District, and then ultimately the presiding judge of the 11th Circuit locally. And so, for instance, for COVID-19, Chief Justice Draper issued a very elaborate order with 4 phases of opening. And we can't really, under Missouri law, overcome that. So even if you adopt this, whatever else it may mean, it will not prevent Judge Draper's order from taking effect. So if they have another exposure and they go back to phase 1 or 0, and they say masks have to be worn in the courtrooms, masks have to be worn in the courtrooms. And we did have some complaints from a couple of citizens who said, wait, I thought we didn't have a mask mandate. It's not our mask mandate. It's the Supreme Court's mask mandate, and we have no ability to overcome that.
The general thought when we were working on this wasn't about air-conditioned courtrooms. It was people that are working in unair-conditioned areas, buildings in the hot summertime. And that's why Mr. Brazel did pass on to me, like Mike said, he'd like to keep this moving because that way it'll be set for passage 2 weeks. 2 weeks is going to be hotter, okay?
Go ahead, Dave.
Just want to say, though, that our next meeting will be on May 24th, so.
Oh, that's right. So normally, we meet the second Monday and the last Monday, but the last Monday, you'll be celebrating Memorial Day. So we are back to the 24th. So we will be here in 2 weeks, not in 3 weeks, as the calendar would lead you to believe. And we can't move, a lot of times if there's a holiday on Monday, we'll move to Tuesday, but Tuesday unfortunately would be the next month. And we have to meet 2 times in May. So we will do it on the 24th. Any other thoughts about this, Mr. Cron?
And timing-wise, if we keep this on track like we're talking about, it's possibly like, just for instance, park buildings, okay? People go to parks on Memorial Day, you don't want to wear a mask around your family when you're eating barbecue, okay? So, I mean, the idea is to have it gone by then as well, so hopefully that'll happen.
Mr. Cronin, there is no mask mandate for the public in county buildings. Not in park facilities, not
Only
inside
for
the
employees.
administration building. It's
Only
an
for
employee
employees.
only.
Okay, thank you.
Because we had several citizens who expressed concern about meeting with people if they weren't masked.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you have business at the administration building down the street, you are not required to wear a mask while you're there. So Wally, feel free to go down there and do your business. Not right now, maybe later. Any other comments? All right, with that, we will move on from that. If you care to stay, you're welcome to stay. If you want to leave because the resolution's done, you're welcome to do that. And Brenda, you can break out the bullhorn on the steps again if you want and rally the troops. So with that, we will move on to conditional use permits, which are not quite as exciting, unfortunately, starting with Bill number 4953.
Bill number 4953, requested by Mike Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Brazel. An ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 21-05A for self-storage and mini warehouses to Highway N Properties LLC property owner and STL Storage LLC applicant.
All right, so with that, I'll take a quick pause and let things calm down and get quiet. No, because we already started this one. We can do it after this one if you want.
On the bill, they approve the resolution, the bill will be in 2 weeks.
Oh, Joanne Lycum. She's Director of Administration. All right, so with that, would you like to swear in Mr. Myers?
Absolutely. Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right, Robert, do you want to tell us a little bit about conditional use 2105?
Certainly. On your agenda tonight, you have 3 bills that are related to each other. The first is a rezoning from agricultural to C2 General Business District for this subject property. That's later on this agenda, Bill number 4956. The subject of this conditional use permit is actually in 2 parts. There's technically 2 conditional use permits they're requesting. First is for self-storage mini warehouses, and the second is for outdoor vehicle storage in the rear. There's a component of that towards the rear of the property. The location is on Highway N, about 1,800 feet west of Hopewell Road, and at the intersection of Dwella Road, Hopewell Road, Highway N. The master plan designates a commercial node and for future commercial. So the applicants are proposing the use that I mentioned. It would not have sanitary sewer service, but it would although it would have an office, it would be served with on-site sewage disposal. The building ends facing Highway N would be a brick veneer And so it would be architecturally finished office building. And they also are showing landscaping on their landscape plan, landscape buffer along the west side and south side. The reason for that landscape buffer is that Duckett Creek Sanitary District recently made known plans that there's going to be a new plant, sewage treatment plant, built on Garden Creek, south of here. That will likely allow the development of the Hopewell Road corridor, I'll call it, all the way up to Highway N, including this property. In fact, there are plans being worked on now by private individuals and firms for development of surrounding parcels. And as we were understood from the public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission, the properties wrapping around to the west and the south are under contract by Lombardo Homes and their conceptual plans are to build apartments, again, to the west and the south. So the landscape buffer is intended to buffer from those uses. The applicant's representative testified at the public hearing that they are working with those developers to ensure to coordinate between the different uses, and the applicant can tell you more about that. Let's see. Also, another important point is St. Charles County and MoDOT have been working cooperatively to see to the widening of Highway N. Highway N is our future growth corridor designated in a master plan. There are active plans underway right now to widen Highway N. Right now, the right-of-way is only, I think, about 45 feet wide. The current need is for 150 feet wide at this location. And so the applicants have actually incorporated in their plans a setback that anticipates the widening of Highway N to that the right-of-way width, plus an additional front yard zoning setback. In other words, they're anticipating all of that development happening and have incorporated it in their plans. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on April 21st, and after following the public hearing and public input, they recommended for 9 approval and 0 against for approval for both of the conditional use permits with certain conditions. And those draft conditions are in the bills that's before you. Actually, there's 2 bills because there's technically 2 different conditional use permits and technically 2 public hearings.
All right. Any questions from anyone for Robert on this? So with that, I would ask you to introduce the applicant.
Certainly. Tonight we have Brad Goss, the applicant's representative, and Tim Kenke, who's the applicant.
Mr. Goss, it's good to see you again. It's been a while.
It has been a while. It's good to see you.
I will swear you in at this point. Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay.
It's all yours. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the project?
I do. Mr. Chairman, members of the council, my name is Brad Goss. My address is 120 South Central, Suite 700, St. Louis, Missouri 63105. With me tonight is Tim Kenke. He is the principal of STL Storage. And what we wanted to do tonight, we do have a presentation I'd like to walk you through. But I'd like Tim to tell you about STL Storage, his company, and how it operates, because I think it's a little different than some of the storage facilities that have been in front of this council in the past, where you really don't have on-site operation and you don't have kind of the hands-on approach that he takes. And I think it's helpful to know that. Then we'll kind of go into our proposal, and I want to talk about our work with Lombardo Homes and how that affected how we've laid this out, and talk about what we anticipate happening overall in the area. So.
Good evening. My name is Tim Kenke, owner of STL Storage, as Brad mentioned. And we've got a little bit of a slideshow here to show you. Just a little bit about our company. We started in 2017, and our first development is in Wentzville, Missouri, on South Point Prairie. And you have that clicker?
I'm working on it. Houston, we got a problem.
Ashley, can you give us some technical help up here?
Should move with the arrows.
We've changed everything since you were here before. There you
It
go.
worked at P&Z.
See?
So just a little bit about our company. We started our development and opened our doors in 2017. And, as it mentions, we pride ourselves in offering a simple and hassle-free solution to our self-storage customers. A lot of times, there's a concept in everybody's mind about what storage is, the good, the bad, the ugly. And we wanted to make sure that you understood what we've developed in Wentzville and what we plan to develop on Highway N there. So our units are clean, secure, and ready to rent. We offer a wide variety of storage unit sizes, anything from a 5x10 that might be apartment size, all the way up to somebody moving a whole home into a 10x30 size. We have online rentals and an online bill pay where a person can make a 24/7 rental after we close our doors for the day. So our business operations, we're open to the public Monday through Saturday. We're open from 9 to 5 currently and closed on Sundays. We rent storage units, as I mentioned, from 5x10 to a 10x30. We rent U-Haul trucks. We're a U-Haul dealer in the area. And a person can purchase locks, boxes, or other moving supply from us whenever they like. I did mention the 24/7 self-service kiosk. Think of an ATM machine that we have in the front of our building. Once we close our doors, somebody could come and rent if they need to move out that day. They have that ability to rent from our kiosk. They can purchase a lock, they can rent a unit, or they can pay a bill through that kiosk. We have security cameras set up that provide 24/7 surveillance to ensure everyone's safety of their belongings throughout the facility. It's lighted throughout the evening as well, so people that are coming in late at night to look at their stuff, they have that security and the feeling of security there when they're storing their belongings. Each of our customers has access through our gate, through a keypad, to be able to, a 4 or 6-digit keypad access, to be able to come and go and know that their keypad is only for them, so that we have that security for our customers. Some things about self-storage that you might not know, the benefits to the community. It's a very quiet business. We might have 10 to 15 people that come on any given day, a little bit more on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, because that's the time when people move in and move out. But it's fairly quiet during the days. It does act as a good buffer to the community, produces very little traffic, as I mentioned, does not impact utilities or schools, provides good tax revenues, property tax revenues, and it's very well needed service into the community. And for that, I'll get into the feasibility study that we conducted. Obviously, one of the things we did before we decided to embark on another development, first of all, we have the demand in Wentzville. This is about 5 miles away from our current location. And so we did a study of the demand, the supply and the demand in the area to determine, is this something that would be needed? And one of the things we found, if you take a look, the person that conducted the feasibility study does a 3 and a 4 mile ring around that particular location that where our site is. And what they do is try to determine how much unmet demand there is currently for storage. And so if you look in the column on the right in the yellow, the total current demand is 159,500 square feet. That basically means that one could come and fill that demand through putting square footage in that particular 3 mile ring. Now, our development is for 51,200 square feet. So even having considered our development were to be in place today, there would still be around 100,000 square feet of unmet demand. And then she also took a look, when she did the study, at the future demand going out to 2025 with the anticipation of other developments. Brad mentioned Lombardo coming into play and so forth in the area. There's even a greater future demand for self-storage, and that bumps it up to 178,000 square feet in just 3 or 4 years from now. And so you can see the demand is there, and it made sense to kind of have a thumbs up on her proposal to go ahead and make move forward with this development. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Brad.
Thank you. So just briefly to go through where the property is, we're located on Highway N on the south side. We are immediately west of some commercial zone property and the Hopewell and Dwello intersection, which is a commercial activity zone. under your master plan. We are immediately adjacent to that commercial activity zone, and the idea behind the commercial activity zone is to serve the needs of those in around a 2-mile radius, the commercial needs of those in the neighborhood, essentially. And then what's to the yellow is a low-density residential planned use. Now, you last looked at the planned uses with any detail, really in kind of the mid-2000s. You can talk to Robert Moore about that. He mentioned it at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So even though you've updated the master plan, you didn't spend a lot of time looking at those uses because there are certain things you didn't know. Most particularly, was Duckett Creek going to bring a sanitary sewer plant online? Well, they are. We absolutely know they are now. They've made the announcement. And what that means is that this low-density residential, it's going to become much more intense. Because all of that land is coming under contract now with developers because they know that they're going to have sanitary sewers to serve their site. Immediately across the street, the sports barn, that is one of the commercial uses in place now. They did send a letter of support for our project. When we met with Lombardo, and when we found out Lombardo had the property under contract, we thought, look, it's really important that we meet with them. We need to make sure that our use is complementary to what they're planning to do and that we don't do something that is going to detract from their development. So Tim met with the Lombardo folks and had a series of meetings. And through that, what we found was that their concept plan calls for multifamily housing, apartment units, 180 of them, immediately to the west of us. That's immediately to the left of that red line you see on the screen. And then to the south of us, there's another 108 attached villa units that are planned for this property. So there's kind of an intensive multifamily use that's going to be taking place around us. Now, one of the things that we wanted to do was harmonize our development with their development. And so when they looked at their plan, they were going to have a separate entrance onto Highway N, as were we. That's 2 entrances onto Highway N. We wanted to eliminate that. Combine those entrances so you only have 1 entrance and exit onto Highway N, which is an improvement. And they've provided for internally in their site for a roundabout to handle the dispersion of their traffic once you get further into the site. So we think that's a real positive because we have planned for their development and we've done a better job in terms of what's going to be happening with traffic demand on Highway N. Now, this concept of having self-storage next to residential is not something that is unheard of. In fact, it's something that you see a lot more of because there is such a demand for this when you have residential development. As you probably know, there's a county ordinance that prohibits the parking of RVs in neighborhoods, either on driveways or on streets, for I believe it's more than 48 hours. So these people have RVs, they got to get them somewhere else. Most covenants in a development will also prohibit the outside storage of boats. And so they've got to find a place to store the boats. If you don't, so one of the things that they end up having to do now is drive a considerable distance to find those locations for that kind of storage facility. And again, that's not something that they would like to do. They'd rather have it close to where they are. So if you look at what's on the screen, that's the Cotterville Trails development. That development has been approved in the city of Cotterville. That's a master plan community. Up in the upper left of the screen, you can see a brown building. That is a self-storage facility. And then you see the parking that's in front of that. That's parking for RVs and boats. That's outside storage. And then immediately beyond that are single-family homes. And they put landscaping there in between the single-family homes and the self-storage facility. That's something that the builders who were going into that community knew about and in fact said, yeah, this will work because we have a need for this. When we bring in this much housing, people need places to put their stuff. And so we know it's a concept that can work for the builders. Lombardo, in fact, is one of the builders who's going to be in that development. So in terms of our specific plan, what we're proposing to do, we have 4 buildings. Originally, we had this on the east side of the property. We've moved it to the west, and we did that again because we wanted to harmonize with Lombardo. We want to mix with Lombardo and be part of what they are doing. We've got parking in the front. We have a keypad right up on the entrance for entry and a gate, so it is secure. And then you have that self-storage outdoor area that is completely screened because it's in the back. It's in the interior with the buildings in front of it. We mentioned the right-of-way. I think Robert mentioned that. Originally, when we first submitted our plan, the right-of-way request was for that we provide some additional right-of-way, but they were thinking that Highway N was going to go from a 60-foot wide right-of-way to like a 90-foot wide right-of-way. And instead, what we found was, no, the Highway Department folks working with the county decided, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, that they wanted 150 feet of right-of-way for a highway and is that corridor. So what we did was we redesigned our development, we pulled it back so that we're providing an additional 75 feet of setback from Highway N to accommodate that future need. And then we've got a 25-foot setback beyond that, which will satisfy the zoning requirements. So when Highway N gets widened, we will already have accommodated that planning. The building itself will be a stone and gray Nietzsche plant panels, and then a black metal roof. So it's going to be a high finish front. It won't be something that's temporary. And that's what's going to face Highway N. That's what people will see. And we think that will be something that will be aesthetically pleasing to folks driving down Highway N. We've also provided for extensive landscaping. The county ordinance does have a requirement with respect to what landscaping you have to put next to a residential development. And so that, I think, is one of the conditions that's in the one of the conditional use permits that's affecting us. We've already provided for that. That's what's on the left-hand side of your screen there. That is landscaping that meets the code requirements of St. Charles County. And what that is a mix of red maples and arborvitae. So you're going to have a mix of kind of solid mass and plus good fall color is the idea behind that landscaping, up and down and all the way along that border. And then we've also provided for landscaping in front of the building as well to give it a nice finish, both in terms of shrubs and in trees. With respect to that landscaping, we were supposed to have, under the county's formula, something like 480 credits. We actually provide 750 credits. So we're nearly double the amount of landscaping that would be required under the county's requirements. So with respect to the conditional use permit, we believe that we have addressed the concerns that we need to address for a conditional use permit, that we're not endangering the public health, safety, or general welfare. We think we've done that because there is a current demand for storage right now, not even anticipating the future growth. We are avoiding that need for remote storage and transportation that follows from that. Our hours are limited. We do have somebody on site, so it's controlled access during the day. And there is the problem with county ordinance and CCR saying, look, you can't store this stuff on your property, and so you need to find a place for it. So we do think we're meeting a need there. The conditional use permit is not to be injurious to the use, enjoyment, property in the vicinity. And again, what we've done working with Lombardo is to make sure that we're going to be complementary to what they're doing. And we've also limited the exits onto Highway N, which again, we think is a positive. The conditional use permit is not to be injurious to the aesthetic and scenic values of the vicinity. You've got Highway N is going to be a major highway corridor. We are putting a high finish building with landscaping on that corridor. And so we do believe that we're meeting that requirement. We're also providing ornamental fencing along the front, and I didn't mention that previously. And then the conditional use permit will not substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. That's why we worked with Lombardo. We wanted to make sure is something we're doing here going to cause a problem for your development? And you know, the answer was no. They're comfortable with what we are doing. And then finally, the conditional use permit will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding property for the uses permitted in the district. And again, as I've mentioned several times, we think we are anticipating the growth, the needs that are going to happen there, and working with the surrounding development that we know is going to occur. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Anybody have questions for Mr. Goss? All right. So with that, we will open this up to public comment. Any individual supporting or opposing the application is invited to share their comments with the council, council staff, We'll call forward one at a time. Each speaker that has submitted a speaker card, upon the conclusion of individual comments, please remain at the podium for any follow-up questions from council, staff, or the applicant may have of you. We encourage you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. And should another speaker have shared the same information already, feel free to say ditto, and the record will reflect that you share the opinion that is already stated. So with that,
Arnie Dienoff.
Mr. Dienoff, I'm going to guess this is appearance 1 of what I'm guessing is 4 this evening. I don't know what the over-under is, but I'm going with 4.
You need to bet in Maryland this Saturday for the trifecta.
See,
So-
kind of figured we would get that.
And I will swear you in.
Oh, okay. Can I
Please.
put this on the screen so they could start to pull it up?
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Could, whoever's phone that is, could you mute that, if you would? However you want to show it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate, mailing address P.O. Box 1535, O'Fallon. Unfortunately, I had another meeting at the Planning and Zoning Commission, or I would have testified there, but I came to the Planning and Zoning halfway through, and they had already gone through this issue. I'm fully opposed to this rezoning. As you can see here depicted on the wall is a 910 to a 1,000 home development that just was announced called The Harvest. And I'll get into that in a moment. It's right near this storage facility, and it's high-end homes. It's living for everybody, and it's going to be the largest subdivision in Missouri's history, and one of the largest subdivisions in the county. And they're also looking into Phase 2 further west and further south on Hopewell Road. But I believe that this property should have a better and higher use. This council and the Planning and Zoning Commission both unanimously turned down the storage lot that was on the other side of Hopewell Road, just east of this location. And that was very controversial. The same thing, the same items apply in this case, and I ask that you look at that case and that application. This is for commercial use along Highway N. And the developers of Harvest subdivision, which I'll tell you who those are going to make sure to keep all of Highway N for commercial uses to serve these over 3,000 residents at a minimum that'll be moving in this corridor of Hopewell Road and Missouri Highway N. We have an overload of storage. There are 3 within this immediate area, this immediate neighborhood, and it's oversaturated. Our comprehensive plan says not to put storage. It is not a good use, and I ask that you look at our professional staff, our Planning and Zoning Director, and our Director of Community Development that resoundingly recommended to the Planning and Zoning Commission no on this project. The full recommendation of the staff recommendation, the Planning and Zoning Commission, Planning and Zoning Division recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend that the County Council deny both conditional use permit applications for the following reasons. Number 1, establishing the proposed conditional uses would be detrimental to the general welfare because the uses would be inconsistent with the 2030 master plan that we all worked so hard on working on that this council passed last year. The future land use map does not plan for the mixed-use commercial activity center at Highway N Hopewell Road extending so far west, and instead recommends low-density residential 1 to 4 dwellings per acre land uses for the subject tract. Number 2, the conditional use may impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of adjoining properties for residential development. So that's your professional staff that you pay over $1 million in giving you the professional background and the professional recommendations. Now, as I said, Harvest just announced that they are building between 910 to 1,000 homes on 270 acres, a property which is under contract, which will be the largest subdivision in Missouri. This is at Highway N and Hopewell, as I said. They're asking a rezoning from agriculture to R1 planned unit development. They're going to make road improvements. Because as you all know, Hopewell needs to be, it's an unsafe road. It's a county road currently. It has not been brought up to today's standards. Harvest will be built by Fisher and Fritchell, Payne Family Homes, Concert Homes, Barrett Construction, and a lead development. And they're going to have from estates, R1 family, regular homes, condos, townhomes. It's going to be a mixed use of various different housing opportunities. We need to be, as a county, we need to make sure, as this is one of our major corridors, this Highway N, where people are moving in 3 to 4 families on a daily basis in this area. We need to make sure that this region and this Highway N corridor remains attractive for both residential and commercial development. In my opinion, storage lots are not the frontage. They should be back in the back, way in the back, on commercial developments. McBride Homes has bought 20 acres and turned around and in December sold it to Duckett Creek Sanitary District. So they will be constructing this need for the sewers. These 4 developers will be annexing from unincorporated to the city of O'Fallon in July. Missouri Highway N, and Mr. Goss brought this up, it needs improvements, expansion, and land is needed. I did speak to MoDOT, and they have requested that any conditional use permits, that the county make sure that they donate 150 foot of right-of-way. If you are in the mood to approve this, which I think would be the wrong move for our county, it goes against the comprehensive plan, it goes against the recommendation of the planning and zoning staff that you employ, and it goes against the recommendation of the director of community development that you entrust. But if you decide to go ahead and approve these 2 conditional use permits, I would ask that instead of a type 2 berm barrier buffer, that you go to a type 3 buffer. A type 3 buffer would be 30 foot in width, would be 4 foot in height, would be sloped 3-to-1 ratio, would have white pines every 20 feet, and a tree every 50 foot, with in-between shrubs being in between, and a 6-foot fence or 6-foot wall, and landscaping on the frontage bordering Highway N to retain investment of the adjoining residential developments. I also ask you put in an additional condition that no derelict vehicles be allowed on the property, that no sales of autos, recreational vehicles, boats, or trucks be allowed at any time, that no parts be stored on the property, that no auto storage, that no auto repair or body work be done on the property, that no one lives in the units. Some of these units in St. Charles County, there are people, and you might laugh, but it's literally true, they rent these storage units and they're literally living there as their residents. And also there's businesses that are doing business out of these storage units, which should be prohibited and a condition added on. Now, I hope that all of you looked at all the comments and the emails that came in from the adjoining residents and property owners. But just to highlight some of their comments, there was from the Menschler Family Trust, says it would be an eyesore, potentially negatively impacting our property values, and it goes against the 2030 master plan. The city of Wentzville sent a letter to Mr. Myers, the Director of Planning and Zoning Development, on March 9th of this year. The city of Wentzville does not support the change in zoning petition to C2 General Commercial, as the request is not in conformance with the city nor St. Charles County land use plans. There were other emails which basically stated the same about light pollution, increased traffic, reducing their property values, will bring dust, light, and noise contamination. This one person who speaks about the same owner that owns another storage lot makes the following comment, and I quote, "The continuous property also owned by the same group is a group of shacks and a yard used for repairing boats, vehicles, and equipment. It's an eyesore. If this project is approved, it will invite others. This activity will reduce the quality of life we now enjoy and will reduce our property values." And that's basically the theme from the basically 7 or 8 emails that I have been privileged to read. For those reasons, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, I ask that you do the right thing, not on behalf of one developer or one applicant, but you do the right thing on behalf of our 2030 master plan. You take the recommendations seriously of your professional staff and the Director of Community Development and the Director of Planning and Zoning, and that you unanimously vote down this project. We don't need another ugly storage unit to bring down our property values, to hinder our economic development, to provide services for our 430 county residents. This is the most growing corridor in the state of Missouri, and it needs full attention, and it needs to be our prized possession in a first-class manner to showcase what St. Charles County is all about to the state of Missouri. Thank you very much, and I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dinoff. Our next speaker,
Are there any questions?
seriously?
Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker?
Final speaker on bill number 4950.
All right, does anybody have, I'm sorry, that was unprofessional. I shouldn't have done that. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant on this issue? Mr. Cronin?
I have a question, it's probably more of a point of order with Rory. Okay? These CUPs are in Councilman Brazel's district, and with CUP, I understand the first meeting is where you're supposed to get all the questions answered, any questions you have. I just text Mr. Brazel to see if he had any questions. He's not responding because of the fact that he's sick. So that being said, would it be prudent to either table this, or does Mr. Brazel have the ability to get additional information questions answered from Mr. Goss and his client prior to the approval, or I shouldn't say the vote on the next meeting? Okay, does it make sense to you?
That does make sense, yes. The council can table it if it so chooses, but, you know, I don't believe that there's a requirement that they do that, just because one of the members is absent, even if it is in his district. With that said, today is the day for public comment. The record will close at the time that you actually vote at the next meeting.
Okay, will Mr. Brazel have the ability to question Mr. Goss and the applicant and use that information as part of the decision?
Not under oath, no, sir.
Then
This
my
is the
question
hearing
whether
for
we
that.
want to table this or not.
Mr. Chairman,
Hang on.
Point of order here now. In other words, if we table this and we come back 2 weeks from now, then we would have another public hearing or not?
I believe technically, yes.
Okay.
Anybody else have any other questions about that? Mr. Goss?
yeah, Mr. Chairman, Councilman Cronin, I have spoken with Councilman Brazel about this project on more than one occasion, because it is in his district. So I believe what questions he has have been answered to the best of my knowledge. And what one of his concerns, he said, I want the building to look nice. He said, I don't want it to be an ugly building, I think was the words he used. And our building does look nice. I mean, it's a high-finished building. And it is heavily landscaped. I listened carefully to Mr. Dinoff and his comments about landscaping. We have twice the amount of landscaping the county requires for this
The question I have
project.
for you, do you feel like you fully discussed this with Councilman Brazel?
I do.
All his questions were answered?
I do.
Okay.
You know, and obviously if Councilman Brazel has other questions or concerns, I'm going to address them if they should come up, but I believe I have answered all of his
But
questions.
technically, any further information at the close of this meeting would not be waiting on his decision, correct?
That's not necessarily correct, no. But
Okay.
if Councilman Brazel wants questions during a public hearing, tonight was the night for the public hearing. So the answers that he would get would not be under oath.
But he's free to get additional information from Mr. Goss and use that in his decision 2 weeks from now.
Theoretically, yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know. I think we can move this forward then.
Does anyone else have any questions about this?
Ms.
Yes, Mr. Elman.
Rory.
It's a debate between the two of you.
Is the difference that it's, you know, whatever he finds out, he can use to make his decision, but it just will not be part of the official record? That's correct. If there's some sort of appeal or so forth,
That'd be correct.
you know, whatever discussion they had before will not be part of the record.
Correct.
But, I mean,
That's correct, yes.
That's the important thing. So if this ever gets to court or whatever, the only thing in the record in front of the judge will be what happened tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Plus what happened in planning and zoning.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we have the planning and zoning record that has happened. Do you have anything that you wish to
Well,
add?
only two things. I'm not going to repeat what I'd said earlier. I think that stands for itself. Obviously, the Planning and Zoning Commission has a unanimous recommendation. I think that's very significant. The other thing that came up at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, because Mr. Dienoff made a point of telling you that the staff had recommended against this in their staff report, they didn't know about the Lombardo proposal at the time that staff report was written. That came up subsequently, and we did have a subsequent meeting with Mr. Myers to explain that, because we found out about it afterwards and met with him and then showed him how we had changed our plan. The initial plan that they looked at was on the east side of the property, and then we moved it to the west. So changes happened in response to that. And lastly, I don't want to put words in Robert's mouth. I mean, he can certainly, please ask him, but we had a discussion about the master plan land use and the fact that that really had not been updated since the mid-2000s, and it just didn't reflect what we know today. And so we do think, with respect, that this is consistent with where the conditions are and with what's going to happen around us. And that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Goss? Sure, we're good with you. I do have one question, Robert. Has, based on what Mr. Goss had said about Lombardo, does that change staff's recommendation on this?
Well, I think it shows how dynamic things are because of this announcement about the new sewage treatment plant. When the master plan was prepared, we relied on earlier master plans for this area in terms of land use. And so master plan has these conceptual at arterial roadway intersections, 200,000 square feet conceptually of retail and services. And so we tried to lay out basically what would that look like on parcels, but it's really difficult to get that exactly right when you're guessing. Well, not guessing, but when you're
using the information you have at the time.
Right, when you're projecting, I should say, back in the mid-2000s. And so the best of our abilities, the land use recommendations, the red is what recommends commercial. That's right next door to this. And this, the master plan recommends low-density residential. I think that part is less for this tract. I think that part is less strong because of the market has shown that there is a demand for more than low-density residential, 1 to 4 dwellings per acre, along fronting on Highway N, for instance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, that will conclude the public comment portion on this conditional use permit. And with that, we will move on to conditional use permit 4954.
Bill number 4954, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 21-05B for automobile, boat, truck, and recreational vehicle storage to Highway N Properties LLC, property owner, and STL Storage LLC applicant.
So Robert, you've already been sworn in. We'll move on with phase 2.
If you would allow me to do so, I'd like to have my testimony at the last public hearing also stand for this, just because they're virtually the same testimony and they're both integral to each other, the two different uses.
Very well. Mr. Goss, do you want to come back with the applicant? And you've also already been sworn in, so you don't have to do that again. It stands for all evening, you know? You're good to go for the rest of the night.
This is like a Disney World pass.
It really is. Once you're in on that all-inclusive pass, you're in. Anything you want to talk about in portion 2?
No, what I would like to do is incorporate our comments from the prior conditional use permit hearing, because again, the use is the same, and so what we presented before would apply for this conditional use permit as well.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to add, or are you good? I'm good. All right. Thank you very much. So with that, we will open it up to public comment. Our first speaker of the evening is?
Adam Basala.
Adam.
Oh, wait. Pardon me.
But wait.
That's the next one, sorry. Arnie Dienoff.
Appearance 2 of 4 for the evening if you're scoring at home. Can you also state that everything you said the first time is good and we're good to go?
I will, but just one thing, I want to challenge you. You asked if there were questions to remain for questions, so I just was following your directions from before.
And you were right on the money.
Yeah, but you just cut me off, so.
My bad. Force of habit.
I understand. Let's just get along, okay?
We're good.
So thank you very much. I'll be very brief. Thank you very much, members of council. Mr. Chairman, my name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate, mailing address P.O. Box 1535, O'Fallon. First of all, I'd like to go on the record of my same testimony as the last public hearing, but I would like to add a few items here. The first thing is, I feel that our comprehensive plan is very comprehensive. I sat through a number of those meetings. I understand the comprehensive plan. This is one of our major corridors, along with 94. We want to treat this with kid gloves. This is not the place for a storage business. I am asking that the county retain Missouri Highway N from here to Highway Z, all the frontage as commercial and economic development opportunities. Harvest, with their 5 partners, have committed to the city of O'Fallon and to St. Charles County that all the frontage property that they own under contract will be commercially developed, either shops, restaurants, services to their residents, or commercial office buildings. So I would ask that you keep that same theme. I'm tired of the county keep giving away our prized possessions, our future development, so that we can increase our revenues to pay for essential services. Each and every week, this Highway N corridor brings in 3 to 4 new families that move into a brand-new house from outside of St. Charles County. It puts more demand, more responsibilities on our county police, on our roads and our traffic, our public services for animal control, which I'll be speaking during comments, public comments, and other type services for public health, our elected officials for assessments, collectors, and we really need to home in on economic opportunities to pay for those services. So for those reasons, Mr. Chairman, I ask that you deny this conditional use permit. They've got a great plan, but this is just not the place. If they're way in the back of a commercial lot, in the back where they're not bothering anybody, where they're not being seen, I don't have a problem with that. But to give away our future land development and to give away our frontage on the most developed, fastest growth area in the entire state of Missouri and one of the fastest development areas of the Midwest is hypocritical if this council would approve that. For those reasons, I ask that you deny this application.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Dienoff?
Thank you.
See, I asked. There you go. That's right. Any other public comments on
It's
this?
the final speaker.
So with that, it will close the public hearing on CUP 2105-B, and we will move on to bill number 4955, which is CUP 21.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Before we do that, I would like to make a motion that we move public comment up next. I think there's several people here that wanted to make public comment before we go on to the next CUP.
I second that, yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So we will move on to public comment. Before we do public comment, let me tell you this. So the way we normally do public comment, unlike a CUP where, as Mr. Dienoff proved, you can speak as long as you want to speak, no matter who's listening, don't laugh. You have 3 minutes in which to make your comments. At 3 minutes, you'll hear a beeper go off. That will be the end of your comments. I'll thank you for speaking, ask you to have a seat, and we'll move on to the next speaker. Typically, what we do is we have 3 for, 3 against on any particular issue. If someone before you says pretty much the exact same thing that you wanted to say, not that your comments are important, but you can get the same point across by saying ditto, and we'll just move on, and we'll allow someone else to speak. So just wanted to make sure everybody understands the rules of the road, and with that, we will move on to speaker number 1.
Amy Benninghoffen.
Hi, Amy. You don't have to be sworn in for public comment as well.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready, take off.
Well, so my comments are going to kind of change a little bit because you guys did pass the resolution. That's why I was here for. But I did kind of want to speak still.
Sure.
mainly because I'm still kind of disappointed to hear some of the statements that Councilman Hollander said earlier about the masks. Sorry, I'm nervous.
That's okay.
My kids go to the Wentzville School District, and this property that you guys are all talking about and all these homes that are going to be built are in the Wentzville School District. I think that the reason there's so many parents that are reaching out to you all because we're very concerned what's happening in our district. I realize that trust me, we are fighting the school board as well. But what really concerns me is the lies that continue to go forth about the masks. Unfortunately, they were spread by the media like wildfire, and then people just believe them. And they're just not true. They're lies that we've all been told, and now we believe. Masks do not protect us against COVID-19. It doesn't even protect us against the flu, which is actually a bigger bacteria than COVID-19. It's a bigger virus. So, and I would be happy to pass these out. I actually printed them out, and I would love to give them to each of you. They're from the CDC website that states that disposable medical masks, also known as surgical masks, are loose-fitting devices that were designed to be worn by medical personnel, excuse me, to protect accidental contamination of patients' wounds and to protect the wearer against splashes and sprays of bodily fluids. There is limited evidence for their effectiveness in preventing influenza virus transmission, either when worn by the infected person for source control or when worn by uninfected persons to reduce exposure. Our systematic review found no significant effect of face masks on transmission of laboratory-confirmed influenza. So that's from the CDC website, so they make all these recommendations, and the trouble is that the schools, then they go and they say, no, they recommend this, and the health department that. But the problem is that they're all lies. It's based on a lie. These masks do not protect us. If people want to wear them, I don't care. Like we said before, I don't care if they want to wear them. If that makes them feel safe when they go out, that's fine. But what I don't like is that we're spreading lies. That's what I don't like. And that my children now have to go to school and wear a mask based on a lie. They go for over 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and they're made to wear these.
That's our time. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for speaking.
And I would be happy to give these out to you.
So do me a favor, just leave those with Claire. So one other point before you call the next speaker, because if you haven't done public comment and you haven't been here before, sometimes you think this is a back and forth, and it is not. This is our time. Earlier, when I asked you guys to listen to us, this is our time to listen to you. So you have 3 minutes to say whatever. We're not going to interrupt you, and we're not going to ask you questions. So you say whatever you've got to say for 3 minutes, and then you get to have a seat, and we move on to the next one. I forgot to say that earlier. Yes, ma'am.
Lindy Williford.
Good evening, council members. My name is Lindy Williford, and I live at 2002 Teresa Court in Lake St. Louis. I have lived in this county for a very long time. I will keep this short. You guys, parents are tired. We are tired of the government finger pointing at these mask mandates and quarantines. We're tired of everybody saying it's everybody else's fault. You can sit up here tonight with your fancy resolutions, your ordinances, and your bills saying that you don't have mask mandates or quarantines or that you don't have control over the schools, but this does nothing for us watching you do this. You're doing it to get us off your backs, just like everyone else in the government is doing right now. Parents have had enough. Our kids are suffering while everyone is playing the blame game. Oh, it's the health department's decision. Oh, it's the CDC's decision. It's the school board's decision. Or it's county council. You want to know whose decision it really is? It's my decision. It's every mom and dad in this room. It's their decision. It's every parent in this county's decision. That's whose decision it is. Health and safety decisions for our children are not the government's to make.
This right is reserved for parents. And we are taking back that right, and we are doing it right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Bazell.
You're too young to let us sigh like that, Robert. You got to be as old as we are first.
Thank you. Thank you for your time tonight, everybody. I know a couple of you guys here, and just want to say thanks. It's good seeing you guys. I'm here because I'm against the mask. I'm just worried about where this is going to go. Because right now, in a couple other states, they're saying unvaccinated kids, they're going to be forced to wear masks while vaccinated kids won't have to. That's segregation, and that's where this is all going. You know why I don't like the health departments and listening to them personally? Because my child in the hallway, I had to walk her out there. I'll tell you guys a story. She had her 1-year vaccination, MMR, PCV13, and hepatitis A 2-dose. Within hours, she had her first seizure, and within 5 days, she couldn't walk and talk. Because I wanted to put my child in school to go to a daycare. It was in St. Louis County, but they said, hey, we're not going to let her in without the vaccines. And so we got peer pressured by the pediatrician. The pediatrician doesn't tell you the side effects. The pediatrician, after she was hurt, never reported it to VAERS. I found this out 3 years later about VAERS. That's why it's so underreported, because pediatricians don't tell parents about this stuff. No one, the health department doesn't own our children. So just because I wanted to give my child an education, she's got intractable seizures the rest of her life. We're going to mandate masks now? At what point do our children education, they need to stop being held hostage by health departments. The CDC is a vaccine company. They buy and sell. They have over 20 patents on vaccines. They buy and sell $4 billion a year. We're letting them decide if our kids can go to school unless they take their products. This is wrong. We need to be investigating why is VAERS so underreported? They've had 20 years to fix it. I'm sick of this stuff. I have other children coming home now saying they can't breathe. At recess, she's being put in timeout because her mask falls down. This is wrong. Like, there's no science behind that. It's abuse, in my point. And really, like, if you guys were in my shoes, how would you feel? You know, they waited 3.5 years to do a full exome sequencing test on my child to test all the genes. You have 3 years to sue basically HHS, who's supposed to be testing the safety in these vaccines, and that's where this is all going. You guys, someone needs to nip this in the butt now. This has to stop, all this stuff, and I get there's people calling in saying they want to wear masks, but really, like, why do vaccine-injured parents, why are they censored on social media? Why can we not get justice in court, but I can't even talk to my friends and family about what happened to my child? And yes, the health department, great, they have science, but do you think $4 billion a year from the CDC is a financial conflict of interest, everybody on this panel? Come on now. This is where we're getting our science. And my child was hurt just because I wanted her to go to school, and that's why I'm here today. I'm not support of mandating anything for a child to have an education. Our people are scared, they can stay home. Keep your child at home if you're scared.
Thank you. You'll need that later.
Yeah, thank you.
Next speaker.
That's the 3 in support of the bill.
Do we have any against?
None against. I
All right.
have 5 more in support.
Do you want to entertain a motion?
We had a bill and a resolution. Is there people that want to talk about, were these folks talking about the bill, or were they talking about the resolution? Hard telling.
No masks
No
is
masks.
the issue.
How many do we have?
5 more.
I make a motion that we allow 2 more.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I'm
Next two.
opposed. I'd rather hear all 5, but I'll go with the majority.
Okay. Next
Mary
two.
Ann Boatright,
Is Mary Ann gone?
she left.
All right, so we won't count that as one of the 2. Next.
Brenda Webb,
Thanks for not using the bullhorn when you're speaking.
I was going to say that. I have something here to put on right there if we can.
They come up
We'll-
second.
We'll see if it comes up in a second.
Okay.
Ashley, did you see that? There it is.
Okay. And how do we make it bigger?
I think it kind of is what it is.
Okay.
So,
So, I shall stand up here. So So I'm here, as you know, we haven't been here in a while. But I want to actually thank you for passing this resolution, for considering this ordinance, and I'm, hoping that you do pass that as well. And I want to thank the county exec and all of you for standing strong. I am very glad I live in St. Charles County, just so you know. And I have bragged to many people, and many people come, as you know, to St. Charles County because of our stand on this issue. I totally agree with the people, the parents that are here. My heart breaks for them. I'm so grateful I don't have young kids. My grandkids are, in school. But it's just so, I agree, it's just so egregious what has happened to our country and to the world with this stuff. I agree that it's, there's been lies that they based on, and it was not science. So thank you for, taking the stands that you did, and for holding that off. This article here, and you probably all know about this, St. Charles County was declared second healthiest county in Missouri. Y'all knew that, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And it was over this last year. This is an article out of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I was really shocked they even put it in there. But it's from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the University of Wisconsin Population Health Institute. Out of 115 counties, St. Charles County, with our no mask mandate, is the second healthiest county in the state. So thank you very much. Thank you, for standing, because I think this proves mandates didn't work, And so thank you for, your stand up until now. And again, I just wanted to point out one email late Friday night. It went viral on, there's several Facebook groups that have sprung up recently on the whole mask thing, parents and everything. Like in the last 2 or 3 weeks, a bunch of them came. There's 2 or 3 other groups that were represented. One email, and it went viral, and these people showed up. So again, thank you. It's, we're very fervent, as you know, and thank you for letting us speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Last speaker.
Ashley Buselli.
Hi, Ashley.
Thank you for having me back again. Unfortunately, I'm back because we've hit a dead end in my concern with the public library's overreaching enforcement of mask wearing. So I want to ask the council and the county executive, who does appoint half of the library board of directors, works with the health director, and advises our school boards, to start using whatever influence you have to put pressure on those who run our taxpayer-funded public institutions in our county. Our ability to freely choose what's best for our families has been ripped away, and then we're asked to thank them for taking away part of our freedom. It doesn't make sense. Our taxpayer-funded facilities continue to exclude and limit access to the taxpayers who fund them. The boards have been able to get away with it by brandishing the dogma weapons of state of emergency, county health recommendations, and fear-mongering virtue signaling. These pleas are not a joke. Like she said, we're tired, and medical tyranny is here, but you can help. I'm asking you to find a way to influence those at these institutions, such as the libraries, the schools, the school boards, to prevent these taxpayer-funded buildings, not just the government buildings, from enforcing these mask mandates and calling the police on people who want to breathe. They shouldn't be allowed to issue medical advice. These leaders of these taxpayer-funded entities need to know that they cannot encroach on our freedoms, especially our taxpayer-funded resources. We want to be able to freely engage in our county's publicly funded spaces without fear of retribution. Thanks.
Thanks, Ashley. So with that, that will wrap up public comment tonight. We will go back to our, sorry, do you have a different issue?
We have other public speakers on 2 non-agenda items, and then Arnie Dienoff on an agenda item and a non-agenda item.
Okay, sorry, go, my bad.
Dan Hammer.
Dan, I almost let you get out of here without speaking. Sorry about that.
I was thinking, I might, another few minutes, I might head home anyway. It's been a long day.
We've tried to adjust for the crowd, so there you go. Dan, what are we speaking on?
I've lived in St. Charles County in the Heritage neighborhood for the last 25, 30 years. 2 sons graduated, Francis Howell. I called and had a conversation with John just the other day, and I asked him, I go, John, it's kind of interesting. I've lived in this neighborhood for 30 years. I've paid taxes, state taxes, federal taxes, property taxes, gas taxes, sales taxes, I don't know, probably a few other taxes. But I guess my question in conversation with John and several other friends and neighbors in the area is, I haven't had children in school in the last 15 years. Why do I continue to pay school taxes? And by the way, I won't go into it, but I disagree with a lot of the things that the school system's doing. And I asked John, I go, so what do we do about that, or has there been conversation? And he goes, oh yeah, it's come up several times. A lot of people ask about it. And he goes, self-included kinda. And I go, so with that being said, what do we do? He goes, well, it's just kind of always been that way. And after we got off the phone, I called our state representative, Phil.
Christopher Nelly.
Pronounce it again.
Christopher Nelly.
And I called and left a message. His assistant called me back. He goes, Dan, you're absolutely right. He goes, there's hundreds and hundreds of people that call us on a weekly, monthly basis going, hey, I've paid my fair share 30 times over. I don't mind paying for fire. I don't mind paying for police and roads and street and everything else, but I don't understand why I continue to pay the school taxes when I've had kids out of school 15 years. His assistant, Eric, said, they're working on it. I go, yeah, well, I'll hear that the next election cycle too. And he goes, but your local can change it if they want to in a heartbeat. He goes, and if they really want to change it, have them call me. I'll be glad to work with them. And I've got his phone number and his name and contact information I can share with John if you guys want to. But he goes, yeah, locally, you guys can fix that in a heartbeat. He goes, we do have some people working on a bill that's going to address that statewide. He goes, but it takes a lot longer for us to do it than your local government to do it. Okay. So that was just my simple question. And with that being said, perhaps John's the person for me to get back with because he's my district. What do we do? I mean, do we fill out petitions? Do we sign petitions? Do we get our posters and signs and come stand down here a day or two? What do we do? So that's what I would like to know. And if somebody's really working on it, or if it's just somebody telling me that to appease me till the next election comes along.
Thanks for coming and speaking.
Thank you.
I got a comment on that, okay?
Okay.
I had a former Alderman O'Fallon reach out to me, very similar questioning to you. And one of the things he said was curious about is how we are assessed, how our properties are assessed. So right now, you pay, for instance, tax at residential property at 19%. If I own a farm, I get taxed at 12% of the value. My business gets taxed at 32% of my value, okay? And I sent to Scott Shipman, I said, how does that all come about? And he said, back in 1985, it was worked out, and I'm not certain why it's the way it is. But for instance, a corporate farm that produces corn for ethanol and gasoline, okay, they pay approximately a third of what a business like my business would pay in taxes. And what his suggestion was, this former alderman, was that we need to look at the assessment rates, okay? So if you've got a 200, 300, or whatever home your is, instead of being taxed at 19%, you'd be taxed at a lower rate than your assessed valuation would be less than that, and your tax therefore would be less. I don't think we can, as a council, can do anything about the school taxes, okay? I think the only way that's going to get done is with guys like Representative Christopher Finale.
Well, like I said, his assistant said, absolutely local can do it. If they want me to help them walk through it, have them call me. Here's my name, my phone number, contact, and I'll give it to John.
Pass that on.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say someone's
saying.
gonna follow up with Phil and find out what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So we'll be in touch.
Jared is his assistant.
We know quite a few folks at Jeff City, so we will make some conversation.
Yeah, I'd love to know. I mean, As somebody else said earlier.
We will find out, so I would say stay in touch with John, and he will be your point of contact moving forward.
Thanks, group. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Carrie.
Thanks for sticking around. Sorry, who's our speaker?
Carrie Carter.
Hi, Carrie.
Well, I also live in Heritage. Hi, John. So, we were here about last fall, bringing up 4 Summit Station, and I sent John an email this past week, which we've actually had some developments. So this is about the situation on 2 Summit Station. I don't know if you guys remember this from last fall, but this is about 4 Summit Station that is sliding down the hill and basically falling into the ravine or the creek. Last July 4th, over the weekend, the house was condemned. There's a broken sewer line. We've had that, actually, we've had a camera on, we had a friend of ours actually do that. The people who live on the cul-de-sac actually did that. So there's 6 houses on the cul-de-sac, 5 kids under the age of 8 who live on this cul-de-sac. The house is condemned. I just want to paint a picture of the cul-de-sac. The house is condemned. It's literally falling down the ravine. Broken, so imagine boarded up windows, house, like walls are leaning over, practically falling over. It has to be like boarded up on the side for it. It's very unsafe. There's no fence around it. There's nothing around it to keep, people or kids or dogs or whatever from walking around it or anything. It's very unsafe. We have, as I explained to John in my email, we have people driving around the cul-de-sac all the time because it's heritage subdivision. It's a novelty to have. It looks like a Halloween house, like something that you would go and see at Disneyland, the Halloween house. So we have distracted drivers. The kids play in the cul-de-sac all the time. So you have distracted drivers. You have all kinds of looky-loos, people who are coming there all the time. So you have 2 unsafe situations. You have people who don't belong there because they're coming to look at the house all the time. People on foot and people who are driving. Are you understanding the picture?
Yes.
So, this has been going on for almost a year, since it's been condemned. The situation has been going on longer than that. It was condemned a year ago.
Okay, that's our time
All right.
for this one. Here's what I'm going to ask. John?
I've talked to John.
Okay, so I would
Okay.
say you work with John and you work with community development.
We've done this.
Okay.
John Agee declared on May 8th that it's been uninhabitable. To move it to a nuisance, he just, what is it gonna, who's in charge of John Agee? Who's in charge of him? Because this has been going on for a year.
So let me tell you this, we have your contact information, so I will ask that Jared's boss get back with you, and we find out next steps. Fair enough?
Okay, but we
I have a
did this
feeling
year ago.
you know where to find me on the 24th if I'm wrong, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Because we heard this a year ago, it's been a year.
If it doesn't happen, I will see you on the 24th, and I personally will make sure something happens.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Arnie Dienoff.
For a second, I thought I was going to be over. I thought we were only going to have 3, not 4. It's not my lottery night, is it?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Arnie A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate. What are our taxpayer paid $165,000 state lobbyists doing in our state capitol? Question mark. I have testified before the House and the Senate on many bills this session, and they are not. I don't see them. They're not behind doors when I ask state fellow legislators what they're doing for our $165,000 tax dollars. I asked Steve Ellman, the county executive, and Joanne Lycum, the $195,000 director of administration, for updates from those lobbyists because we're paid for by us. We don't see the updates. It's a big secret in the Ellman administration. They're not doing much and not going on the record in defending St. Charles County, which is what they're paid to do. Where are their reports? I guess I'll have to start making public information demands under Chapter 610. HB 920, the elections, abolishing the April election, will not make it to the Senate floor. The gas tax, Senate Bill 262, probably will not make it to the House floor this week. The PDMP, the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, Senate Bill 63, probably will not make it to the House floor this week and be blocked by the Speaker of the House. What about the gambling bills? In our restaurants and in our, the IGA right here in St. Charles has 2 gambling machines right in the middle aisle. It's illegal gambling. What about education, utilities? And finally, the numerous millions and billions of dollars of tax credits given to special interests, which are hurting our county of St. Charles and our state's future. Doesn't make sense what our $165,000 lobbyists are doing who are friends of the county executive. Now, I'm in total frustration. Is that all that I can say for my call for help on Saturday and asking for assistance of a hit cat on the border of unincorporated county in the city of O'Fallon with a hit and injured cat on Missouri Highway K. I called the O'Fallon police dispatcher. She said, we don't have animal control. We laid off 3 of our 4 members and we're down to 1 animal control officer. You need to call the county. I called St. Charles County Police through the Department of Police Communications and talked to Supervisor Jessica. I have an internal affairs complaint because Jessica really didn't want to get involved and help a poor cat get rescued. So she didn't want to assist and wanted to put it over onto St. Charles County Animal Control Division of the County Department of Public Health and the Environment. Public Health and Environment called me back 45, 50 minutes later, and the supervisor said, we have 4 county animal control officers for 430,000 residents. It makes no sense. Where are your priorities?
Thank you, Mr. Dino.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Final speaker.
So that'll wrap up public comments for tonight. Let's return to our originally scheduled agenda and Bill number 4955, which is for conditional use permit 21-07.
Bill number 4955, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by John White. An ordinance granting conditional use permit, CUP 21-07, concerning housing units in the R1E zoning district to John H. Usman and Dorothy W. Usman, revocable living trusts, property owners, and Steve Gower for Pinnacle Land Development, LLC, applicant.
So Robert, you're already sworn in. Can you tell us a little bit about CUP 2107?
Certainly. This property is about 62 acres on the north side of Towers Road, east of Dingledine Road, if you know where that is generally. The property is zoned R1E, single-family residential district, so by right, single-family residential development can occur on this property. A plat has been proposed to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and with that plat, also a conditional use permit to allow narrower lots than are typical, but not for all lots within the subdivision, but for 71 of the 188 proposed lots. So what they're proposing, or what they're requesting, I should say, conditional use permit, would be to have 71 lots that are between 60 and 70 feet wide. 70 feet wide is the normal, you might say, the standard minimum lot width. And also for those same lots to have side yard setbacks instead of 7 feet to 6 feet instead. This is an allowance that's under the conditional use permit provision for single-family residential zoning districts. None of the lots are proposing to reduce lower or smaller than the 7,000 square foot minimum lot size. Again, it's a question of narrower lots and side yard setbacks. The conditional use permit criteria that's in your memo still apply in this case. After hearing the public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended 9 in favor and 0 against approval for the narrower lots and reduced side yard setbacks. And I would say that the Planning and Zoning Commission at that same meeting approved a preliminary plat for this subdivision, but subject to the county council's approval of the conditional use permit. So what I mean by that is if the county council does not approve the conditional use permit for the lot configuration, then the plat will be invalid. I won't be able to sign the plat. I would like to introduce tonight Drew Weber. When it comes time, Drew Weber is the representative for the applicants.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
I've got a question for
Yep.
Robert. Robert, I understand now the reason why for the 60-foot lots. Mr. Weber was kind enough to enlighten me how the market now favors some of those small lots. And Weber, like Kreider Farms off Dingledine, has a similar group of 60-foot lots. So I get that, okay? But I do have a question about the side setbacks.
Okay.
And I'm going back to my alderman days, and I remember questioning why we had those. And one of the reasons we had those back then, they told us, was for fire protection. Okay, and going back and looking in history, and Mr. Ellman's the history expert here, but the Great Fire of 1849 in St. Louis, I figured, I looked that up, and it was started by a steamboat, but it went really fast through downtown St. Louis, went 3 blocks down Olive, even went as far out as Market Street. And one of the reasons they said that fire occurred was because buildings were close together, okay, and the fire jumped from building to building to building to building. So, I mean, 7-foot setback means you've got houses 14 foot apart. That's pretty close already. This one's 6 foot, so we're getting closer yet. And when does that 6 foot become 5 foot or 4 foot? And my question to you is, are we jeopardizing the safety of these residents by putting these houses closer and closer together in the event that there's a fire? And Dave Hammond might have some ideas on that too. So.
Yes, currently, the county's building code addresses closer properties, buildings closer together. At certain points, they have to provide additional fireproofing of the exterior walls to prevent conflagration that happened many years ago. And a lot of those buildings were only 1 or 2 feet apart, so it's covered under the building code.
When would that kick in though, Dave? At 6 foot or 5 foot?
5 feet.
When? You think?
At 5 foot.
Yeah.
At 5 foot.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, if it's closer than, if buildings are close to the 10 feet apart, there has to be measures in place under the building code to prevent just what you said. And so I've seen buildings that are closer than 5 foot to a side yard property line. For instance, you'll have fewer windows, you'll have a firewall on one side, there will be other provisions that can be provided. But in this case, they're proposing no closer than 6 feet to a side yard property line, so conceivably no closer than 12 feet between buildings.
Can't get a fire truck back there. So I guess that's not does the fire districts have any concern about this at all, do you know?
We have not received any comments from the fire district about the 6-foot provision.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Weber, do you want to come forward? Are you solo this evening?
I am.
All right, you're the man for the show.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Good evening. My name's Drew Weber with Hamilton Weber Law Firm, 200 North 3rd Street, St. Charles, 63301. I'm here on behalf of Pinnacle Land Development for this CUP 21-007. This is similar to what staff already put up. This is the surrounding zoning map for the property. As the staff indicated, this is zoned R1E, just like all the other surrounding properties. You'll notice that this property is almost entirely surrounded by single-family subdivisions. The only portion where it's not really is directly north, and that big box directly north is a school, an elementary school that would serve this property. You can see also that a lot of these subdivisions are kind of the normal suburban cul-de-sac style subdivisions. There's a few on the southeast, which is the bottom right corner, which are more of a grid style, but those are older homes built in around the 1960s. Since then, all the other subdivisions filled in with kind of the more contemporary cul-de-sac and cross-connection approach. And we'll be discussing those cross-connections here in a little bit. Now, with respect to the conditional use permit, one thing I want to stress is that this is a conditional use request and not a variance request. I know at P&Z and in some of the comments residents submitted, there seemed to be some confusion about that. So just for the record and for the residents' sake, this is a conditional use permit. So there's no question of hardship. The question here is really fit with the community and with the surrounding subdivisions, and if the requested conditional use has a detrimental impact on the surrounding subdivisions. So what's the requested conditional use? Well, under section 405.090.c.6 of the UDO, it allows a conditional use permit to have up to 4 changes to the R1A zoning requirements. You can request a minimum dwelling size of 800 feet. We're not requesting that. The normal minimum is 1,000, and all of these will be well in excess of 1,000. You can request a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. Again, the normal 7,000 square feet. We're not requesting a conditional use permit for that. What we are requesting is have a little more than a third of the lots be 60 feet wide, and then all the lots to have the 6-foot side yard width. Now, Mr. Cronin, as an aside to your question, there's a lot of subdivisions, maybe not in the county, but certainly in some of the cities in the county that have 6-foot side yards. Like I know we represent the city of Cottleville. There's a lot of subdivisions in Cottleville that have 6-foot side yards. And frankly, the same fire protection district would serve the Cottleville subdivisions in this one as well. So that has not historically been a problem for the fire protection district. So now back to this. Again, we're requesting the 6-foot side yard setback for all the lots, but only about a third of them will be 60 feet wide. Almost 2/3 will be either 70 feet or 82 feet. Here's a breakdown of the lots. The property is about 63 acres in size. It'll be 188 lots, so that's just slightly less than 3 homes per acre. The master plan calls for this property to be low-density residential. That's 1 to 4 units per acre, so we're right within that range. Again, the minimum lot size in R1E is 7,000 square feet. The minimum proposed here is about 7,200. The maximum lot size for the new homes would be about 18,500 square feet. The reason I make that distinction is there's an existing home on the property that's going to stay. It's going to have a 27,000 square foot lot, but for the new homes, the max will be about 18.5. And that shakes down to an average lot size of just slightly under 10,000 square feet, which fits within the size or the average size of the nearby subdivisions. You can see there's a relatively even split of lot sizes and lot widths between 7,000 to 8,000 square feet. Those are mainly the 60-foot wide lots. 8,000 to 10,000 square feet, that's mainly the 70-foot wide lots. And then 10,000 square feet or more, that's mainly the 82-foot wide lots. Obviously, some corner lots for the smaller widths have the larger lot sizes. And then there's a consortium of 3 developers who's going to be building in this subdivision. So I have there.
Recommendation smarts. You have good insights on what people are more likely to buy next.
That's not me.
And sell more stuff to your highest value customers.
Well, there you go. People are more likely to buy now.
That's right.
Who knew?
So you can see the average sale price, anticipated sale price for those lots, and the average lot size as well. Because these are new homes, the sale price exceeds the sale price of existing homes nearby. But the housing or the dwelling sizes also are the same or exceed the surrounding homes. So I want to spend some time talking about the subdivision layout because although it's maybe doesn't relate as much to the requested conditional use. I know there's comments and concerns about the layout and the street layout specifically. So here's the proposed layout. This is what was approved by Planning and Zoning Commission. This is just a colorized version of the preliminary plat. You can see the main entrance is off Towers Road. The county code states that if you have an entrance on a road on one side, an entrance on the other side should be directly opposite. So that's what we've proposed. There's a subdivision entrance to Jacobs Station on the south side, so we've matched that on the north side. You can see the entrance will be an attractive entrance. We'll have a landscaped median in the middle, some common ground on either side. You'll have that divided entrance up to about the middle of the property where there will be a cul-de-sac. On the west side, which is the left of the screen, there's a large lake. There's actually 3 lakes or ponds on the property. Those are water detention basins. They'll be wet all year round. But the largest one on the west, or the center west portion, that's the primary amenity lake. There's a walking path that's going to be around the lake. It's hard to see, but there's a gray line around the lake that'll be the walking path. That gray rectangle area just to the east or right of the lake is a parking area. Because when the builders ultimately build homes in the subdivision, there's going to be some amenity there. We don't know what it is yet, if it's a dock or picnic area or whatever, but that area is designed to be an amenity area for the residents. So as you go further up in the property, there's sidewalks that connect throughout the subdivision. On the northwest, which is the top left, you'll see there's a gray line going from that cul-de-sac up there, up to the north property. Well, that's a pathway for students to walk to school to Cosley Elementary. And then there's another one of our detention basins on that northwest side. And then on the northeast side, which is the top right, that's the 3rd detention basin. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the lot widths and lot sizes with respect to the layout. You can tell pretty well from there, most of the 60-foot wide lots and therefore the smaller size lots will be in the south, kind of the middle of the southern portion of the property. Then as you get to the middle portion, that's where a lot of these 70-foot wide lots are. And then once you're at the top third, that's where the 82-foot wide lots are. The green, you see 2 different green areas on your map. The light green is common ground, and then the dark green is tree stands. There's hardly any trees on the property, so the trees that are there will remain, and they're primarily on the perimeter. And so we've oriented both a lot of the common ground and keeping the trees on the side to provide some buffers. I mean, on the west side, there's only 7 or 8 homes that will actually directly abut existing homes to the west. On the north, we'll have no homes directly abutting other homes because the school is most of the north boundary, and then on the northeast and west boundaries, we have common ground. And then on the east boundary, there's a dozen or so homes that will directly abut existing homes without common ground or trees. But once you get to the bottom right or the southeast, that's where the existing tree cover will be. So the vast majority of the boundary of this subdivision will be common ground or tree area, and you won't have a whole lot of homes that will frankly directly abut other existing homes. So the last thing with this layout that you'll notice is on the top portion, the north portion, there's 2 side street connections. And there's a couple reasons for that. For one, when you have a subdivision of this size, you're required to have multiple entrances, and that's for emergency services. And it's preferable when you have access points for emergency services to not have them close together. So for example, if you had them both on Towers Road, one emergency event could shut down Towers Road and you've blocked off all emergency access. So if you have access points at different spots in the subdivision, then you have preserved or improved your emergency access. The second thing is those streets, so Horseshoe Creek Drive on the west, which is the left side, and Tower Park Drive on the east or the right side, those are stub streets. So when those subdivisions were built, those streets were stubbed for future connection to this property. They weren't cul-de-sacs. I mean, you can see there's 1 million cul-de-sacs in this area, And if you don't want a street to connect in the future, you put a cul-de-sac in. But if the county wanted streets to connect in the future, they'd be stubbed. Well, and that's what happened here. And in fact, we'll talk about this in a minute, but this happened all over the place in this part of the county. So what I've done here is I've taken a map from the county's GIS services, and you can filter for subdivisions. So those orange, they kind of look tan up there, those orangish tan lines are subdivision boundaries. And so you have Dingledine on the west, and just slightly off to the right side on the east is Cox Hill. So you got Towers on the bottom or the south, and so that's kind of your boundaries there. And so there's 19 points where stub streets were connected to different subdivisions. So that's a lot. This is not an unusual request that we're making, or that frankly we worked with the staff on to pick these locations. That's not unusual. I mean, all of these subdivisions connect to each other. There's currently multiple pathways from Towers to Dingledine through these subdivisions. And so what's proposed here is exactly the same as what's proposed for these other subdivisions. Or not what's proposed for these other subdivisions, what actually exists currently. Another thing I just want to touch on briefly is there was some concern from residents about impact on the elementary school, particularly because the new subdivision on Dingledine and then this new subdivision as well. They'll come online at roughly the same time. So here's historic enrollment information for Cosley Elementary. You can see since about 1999 or 98, there's been a steady decline in enrollment from a peak of in the upper 1400s to a slight rebound this past year to 840 students. Similar impact on the middle school that serves this property. There's a peak in 2005 of almost 1,100 students, and now it's down to slightly over 800. So with these new homes coming online, does that mean there'll be more students in the schools? Yes. Does that mean that there will be hundreds more at exactly the same time? No. And there are, as you can see, I mean, there's a continuous decline with very little reversal for both these schools over the past 15 or 20 years. So then a question was raised at one of the P&Z meetings about, well, what about student-teacher ratios? If there's 100 more students but no new teachers, then student-teacher ratios will be negatively impacted. Well, the best thing we can rely on is the historic student-teacher ratios. And so if you look at both Cosley Elementary and Bryan Middle School, some of their first years in existence, the ratios were different, and I didn't print every year here, but basically for the past 15 years or so for each school, that ratio has been between 14 and 16 students. So when Cosley Elementary School had almost 1,500 kids, the student-teacher ratio was 15 or 16 students. Students to a teacher. And now when they're down at 840, it's 14 students per teacher. So that's what public schools do. They move staff around, they adjust their staff to keep relatively the same ratio. And in fact, that's district-wide. In 2020, Francis Howell had 14 students per teacher. Well, again, that's in line with what's happening at Cosley and Bryan, and there's no reason that when these subdivisions are built that it would suddenly go out of whack. The final thing I want to talk about is really best illustrated by example, and that's the why question, which is maybe the ultimate question, but why have 60-foot wide lots? And the answer is when you have large tracts of land like this, the market does a lot of dictating. You know, if you have a 8-acre piece, you can do all the exact same size lot, exact same size home, and it doesn't really matter because you're going to be surrounded by a lot of other different style homes. But if you have a large tract with hundreds of homes, if they're all the same lot width, then they're all going to look pretty similar, and it's not going to be as attractive of a development. And so we see it playing out in real time. Villages of Sanford Farm, that's in the city of St. Charles. It's off West Clay. If you know where the driving range is on Cave Springs, it's basically behind that. So that's a 125-acre tract, and you can see the lot widths here. I mean, they go all the way down to 52-foot wide lots. I'd have to check, but I'm guessing those are probably 6-foot side yard setbacks, or I guess that could be 5. But so that would give you a 40-foot wide house, basically. And they have 62 feet wide, 80, 88, 90. And you can see there's a mix there. And that subdivision is still under construction, but I think it's mostly built out. Similarly, Villages of Provence in the city of St. Charles. It's not too far from here. It's the old Emmaus home tract. It's 88-acre property. And you can see a mix of lot widths as well. The 38-foot lot widths are villas, but for detached single-family residential dwellings, again, there's a mix there of 50, 52, 64, and 80. And most recently, the county approved a couple months ago the Crater Farm subdivision off Dingledine, and that has a very similar mix of lot sizes to what we're proposing at the reserve at Lakeview Farms. So in short, I just want to reiterate again, this is not a variance request. We're requesting conditional use permit solely for the side yard setback to be 6 feet and for basically a third of the lots to have 60 feet in width as opposed to 70. And the question of whether to issue a conditional use permit does examine the impact on the surrounding neighborhood. Well, no matter what, this property is going to be developed as a single-family home subdivision. Due to its size, there's going to be close to a couple hundred homes no matter what. So with or without the conditional use request, there's going to be a lot of homes there. There's going to be the same amount of traffic. So the requested conditional use does not negatively impact those things. It barely impacts those considerations at all because no matter what is developed, it's going to be a single-family subdivision of approximately the same size. So what we've proposed is a single-family home subdivision similar to other successful ones in the area that provides a wide variety of lot sizes and housing mix and hopefully be an attractive development. As a final comment, I'm sure there'll be some questions about traffic improvements or traffic dampening measures on those side street connections. We're more than happy to work with staff on our property and put in, whatever measures are necessary, stop signs or lighting. Councilman White and I talked about that. Whatever stuff is necessary on our property, which is where that's the only place we'd have authority to do those measures, but on our property, we'd be more than happy to do that, and we can work with staff on that. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I ask that you approve this at your next meeting.
Mr. Cronin.
I'd like to thank you and your attorneys and Mr. Goss and his attorneys for giving me a free legal education the last 15 years, okay? Okay? All right. I figured you'd appreciate that. But one thing I do want to ask you, have you received the request from the trustees from the Horseshoe Creek Subdivision Association? They sent us council a packet and asked it to be seen tonight. I just wanted to know if you received that.
No, I have not seen anything from them since the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
And one of the things that you were educating me on tonight was, and I kind of forgot this, I'm glad you brought it up, is that the UDO states that it asks that would a CUP be detrimental to the general welfare or injure the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity. Well, some of those folks that are trustees of the Horseshoe Creek subdivision have some concerns. Some of them I think you've addressed about the speed steps and the stop signs. But I would ask you to read that carefully and see if there's a way that maybe you folks can tailor this development some just to make those people not only happy but follow the words of the CUP or follow PUD or UDO regarding the CUP.
Right.
Okay.
I know that Mr. Basala, who I think is going to come up, I think he has my email address, and so if they want to send that to me or give me a call, I'd be happy to.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I believe you are going to work with the residents in that subdivision, Horseshoe Creek Drive, something to do with the lighting, and I don't know what you can do about the, the traffic on that street. That'd be kind of up to the county, but
right.
I would appreciate if you do work with them on their lighting and other concerns they have.
Yeah, I mean, obviously within our development, we have a lot more control and flexibility over what kind of traffic measures to install. To the extent that they're concerned about streets outside of our development, I mean, we don't have control over that or the authority even necessarily to install anything, certainly on their streets. But to the extent that we can do stuff within our streets, Robert or the street department people will tell us what to do, and we'll happily do that.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Weber.
All right, thank you.
So we'll open this up to public comment. Any individual supporting or opposing the application is invited to come share their comments with the council. Council staff will call you forward one at each time after you submitted your speaker card. Upon conclusion of the individual comments, you can remain at the podium for any follow-up questions. We encourage you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. We encourage. If you have the same thing to say and another speaker has already said, if you said ditto, we will get the point across. So with that, would you please call our first speaker?
Adam Basala.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I also have Ron Black with me. We'll be speaking together, if that's okay?
So Ron, you need to be sworn in as well.
Sounds good.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Awesome.
all yours.
Good evening. Sorry, what?
I said it's all yours. Go ahead.
Oh, wait, thank you. Well, good evening, Councilman. Thank you for your time. My name is Adam Basala. I am a trustee of Horseshoe Creek subdivision, as well as Ron Black. He's a trustee as well. Our other trustee had a sick child this evening. Otherwise, he would have been here as well. Mr. Hollander, I think you recognize us from the P&Z meeting. We did not bring the entire subdivision this time like we did last time, trying to keep things going. So, but we do have a lot of people that are concerned with this property. And really the main thing we want to discuss this evening is about the density of this project and what it'll do to the infrastructure around us, including traffic, as well as the undue burden of the increased traffic on Horseshoe Creek Drive, which is the main street through our subdivision. So with that, here's a quick agenda. I will tell you we did a lot of research. We will try to keep our comments to a minimum tonight, but we did a lot of research, so I would like to present this to you. Looking at the 2030 master plan, looking at the UDO, site location, a lot of things, really to figure out what we could even ask for this evening. So with that, my professional engineer friend Ron here will be going through some things that we found out with the master plan.
Yeah, so we've heard the master plan talked about a little bit tonight, so it's good that we've got something like that. And the master plan is aspirational. It's something that, you know, you're looking forward to using and going by. And like if you look at the zoning in the 2030 master plan for this area, it's R1A through R1D. So, which is different than what it is today at R1E. So that's a pretty significant difference. And in the master plan, it reflects I guess lots can vary from 0.25 acres to 1 full acre. So I think it's important that we recognize the master plan and again, the money that we've spent on that. And, you know, there's a couple slides here. Well, you can see this. I mean, this is in your master plan, so you guys all know what this looks like. So that's where it talks about the lot size. That's the zoning. It shows R1A through R1D, and this is where it shows R1E. Want to make, I guess if I look at Sanford Farms, that's the name, yeah, Sanford Farms. So that's in a different zoning area, even in the 2030 master plan. So I don't know that that's a fair comparison, if you will, on lot sizes and that sort of thing. But clearly the density of the lots for this are a lot larger, or a lot more dense, a lot less dense, I'm sorry, than what you see for R1A through D. So that's our concern, is it's going to exacerbate the amount of traffic, right? We know it's going to be developed. We're not against development, but it's the amount of traffic that it's going to generate. So that's our concern, is the safety for our families.
So a little bit on the site location, and we have spoken in the past with Drew Weber and his law firm kind of in the beginning of this process. We also met with Councilman White, so thank you for your time. You know, but so this is actually from their presentation. They had a call with us. They've been great partners. The reason that we did not send this to them ahead of time is because really a lot of the requests don't necessarily have to do with their site. It has to do with our location and all the things that will happen going into it. So you can see the side here. What I've circled, or the box that are around here, that is Horseshoe Creek Drive. I also circled Dingledine and Towers Road. So currently, there's a stop sign there. And I think that is very significant to show about where the flow of traffic will go. So you can see with the plat, and this is their original plat, so it is slightly different. But you can see a lot of people are going to come in the back way, as I say, into this development. The other thing that they talked about was this, the distance between two entrances. So at the planning and zoning, we learned that it has to be 300 feet between entrances. We also learned that if there's another subdivision street, it has to be straight across. So just taking the measurements of this plat, there is another 650 feet from the current entrance to the edge of their property. So technically, there is room. Listening to Mr. Weber's presentation this evening, I get it. Like if there was a massive wreck on Towers Road, could that block that entrance as well? So, we learn things every time I hear Mr. Weber speak, and we're very reasonable people, right? But I think what this is going to show is a couple of different ordinances that I looked up within the UDO. So, understanding what these streets are, right? Collector streets versus arterial streets. But the key word here is stub street. And one of the things that we read in the UDO is that anytime a street is stubbed, the developer is required to put up a sign that says this street will likely be extended as part of a future development. So Horseshoe Creek has been here for over 20 years. There's been 20 years of paying taxes. There were other people that spoke at that meeting that said, we were never told this was going to be developed, which I'll be honest, they kind of got laughed at, right? I mean, it's a very giant piece of property. To think that it's never going to be developed is probably pretty inaccurate. But I did find this in here. There is no sign, and I have a picture here in a little bit. It also talks about, the county engineer and director of division of development review can require a traffic study. So that was another request that we had tonight, is to potentially look at a traffic study for this area. Collector streets, Horseshoe Creek is considered a major collector street because that is 38 feet wide. I've measured it myself. It's 38 feet wide. I can tell you that Dingledine is also considered a major collector street. To me, Dingledine Road versus our little subdivision street are not the same street at all. And then street lighting was something that we found in the UDO. Mr. Weber's comments tonight about, working with the developer to help us with our street lights because of the additional traffic, and he's saying that they can't help with that. That would be the county's job. That was kind of why I didn't send it to him before, because it would be the county's decision to work with the developer to potentially add street lighting to our street. Because to his point, it's not their property, but can the county request that they add more streetlights? Because there's significant distance between the streetlights on Horseshoe Creek, especially towards the entrance, where there's some very dark areas at night. So increased traffic adds potential safety concerns. So I think that's a good question tonight, is like, can you guys force the developer to work on streetlights within our subdivision? This just goes to show kind of what we looked at on what the traffic is on different streets. You can see here that Dingledine Road is a purple street, which is considered major collector street. I would argue that Horseshoe Creek Drive is more of a local street, which would be in that 1,000 or 1,500 or less. I'm going to pass that. And then, so traffic flow. This clearly shows that the fastest route to Lakeview Farms is down Dingledine Road. So this is my art project that I did. So you can see with that route, the green route is the route where you're going through Horseshoe Creek Drive. People are not going to come down Cox Hill. They're also not going to go to the stop sign at Dingledine and Towers Road, wait at that stop sign, turn left, wait to cross traffic again to then cross into Lakeview Farms. So in our opinion, there is also a collector street that is back through Cambridge Crossing, but you can see how windy it would be. That would not be the most direct route into the subdivision. So based upon this, I think that we've shown that Horseshoe Creek Drive will not be some collector street to get into Lakeview Farms. It will be the main street to get into Lakeview Farms. Right now it's 188 homes. So kind of looking at a little bit of math, 2 cars per day, 2 trips per day, plus, Amazon Prime, UPS, FedEx, the Postal Service, garbage trucks, lawn maintenance, all the things that we already see come through our subdivision would potentially use Horseshoe Creek Drive for the same thing. So we're looking, in addition to our 70 homes in our quiet, peaceful area, where we do have speeders. We have a lot of speeders in our neighborhood. I will tell you right now that Horseshoe Creek Drive is very long, very wide, and very straight. I think I took this picture and I was showing it to Ron. I'm like, it looks like a landing strip. And I can tell you right now, the speed limit is 25. I live on Horseshoe Creek Drive. I consistently see people going 35, 40, sometimes even 50 miles an hour. It is insane how fast people go down the street. There's no stop signs. There's one speed limit sign. There's no children at play signs, no dips, no speed bumps, nothing to slow people down. I have two 7-year-old twin boys. There's a ton of kids in elementary school. This 70-home neighborhood has 3 different bus stops. There's so many kids in our neighborhood. So with all this additional traffic, like, I'm not gonna feel safe with my kids riding their bikes on this street anymore. So I think the question is how can we discourage traffic versus encourage? Because right now, this is clearly showing that this is just gonna encourage this new development to use Horseshoe Creek Drive as their main entrance. So kind of looking at some of the other subdivisions in the area, we thought about gates. So could we gate it at the stub street? So that is the stub street right now. Like I said, there's no signage that talks about this will be extended as future development. I get it after all the research, the street's gonna go through. We realize we can't stop it, but I think the question is how can we discourage people from going through? So could we put a gate in between our two subdivisions? This is also the entrance to our subdivision. You can see we have some really nice monuments already. You know, there is some distance in. I realize you couldn't do it right on Dingledine. That would create a traffic hazard. But could you do it a little bit further in, kind of where I'm showing the new concrete? You know, could we put a gate in there to discourage traffic from moving through? This is one example of a gated community that are county streets where you have the vineyards and the crest over Katy Trail where they put a gate up because of the same reason. People were cutting from the vineyards through the crest of Katy Trail to get down to Greens Bottom. Finally, obviously, you know, the wear and tear on our streets. These are some pictures I took last week. This is after some major road construction last summer where they were there for probably 2 months and tore up probably 50% of Horseshoe Creek Drive. These are still potholes remaining. I talked to the guy who was doing it, who was the foreman. He goes, we really should do a lot more. He goes, but you know, we're already over budget and we can't do any more. So with all of this additional traffic, you know, are these potholes just gonna get worse? So to wrap it up, safety concerns, we've talked about how long, straight, and wide Horseshoe Creek Drive is. The speed limit is 25. I talked about the speed limit. Currently, we only have a sidewalk on one side of the street. I talked about, you know, our small, peaceful neighborhood that we currently have, and then talked about the increased traffic from the reserve at Lakeview Farms. And, you know, based upon medium density housing, this is going to create that unique, or that undue burden on Horseshoe Creek Drive. So our asks this evening would be to install stop signs, at a very minimum stop signs. Also require the developer to install adequate street lighting, and also request that the developer pay for the recurring monthly bills. We currently pay for all of our street lights. There's gonna be more cars from the Lakeview Farms that use this street than we will. So is there something we could do there? You know, consider a gate at one of those 2 locations, and then also consider a stoplight at Dingledine and Towers Road to potentially help with traffic flow there. You know, and speaking with Councilman White as well as Councilman Brazel, who's a friend of Ron's, is, you know, we understand the county engineers against dips. I think that's a good way to slow traffic, but I also understand that is not something that he has considered in the past. And then finally, repair worn concrete and commit to a more frequent police presence. Last but not least is obviously construction concerns. This is a giant development. Construction is going to be going on for a while. A lot of noise, a lot of dirt. We don't want all of those construction vehicles going up and down Horseshoe Creek Drive. So our last request is that all construction equipment during construction utilize Towers Road and not Horseshoe Creek Drive. Thank you for your time.
Any questions?
I just have a suggestion. On the street lights, you might want to do a poll of your residents that lived along that street and see if they want them, because in my experience in some other subdivisions, a lot of folks don't want them. They don't want that extra light shining in the windows of their house. Just a suggestion, do what you want to do with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually have one right out my window, so yeah. I'm well aware what that is. Where it mostly is towards the front of the subdivision, where there's a whole retention basin, and that's actually where there's almost no street lights. So, thank you.
Yeah, we can install shields on those and get shields installed on them as well. So.
Yes, sir.
I was going to ask Robert if there's a way that the county could request that they help them with their lighting.
Request that the developers help the neighboring subdivision?
Yes.
I mean, obviously there can be a request made, but in terms of requiring off-site improvements, Our subdivision regulations don't include a requirement for off-site improvements, but sure, certainly there can be a request that a developer work with the neighboring subdivisions.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next speaker?
No more speakers.
Really?
We are done.
Let me bask in that comment for just a second. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Robert. See, I knew I wasn't done.
Can I address one thing quickly?
You may.
There was a comment made about there's no sign at where the stub street ends of the property line. Our subdivision regulations didn't include that originally. It wasn't until 2003 that required that subdivisions, when constructed, that a sign be put up at a stub street saying that this street will someday be extended. Also, there's not a requirement that that sign stay up, so occasionally you'll see that a developer will put that in according to the rules, and then some year it comes down, and there's no one there to step in and put it back in. But this subdivision was developed in the 90s, and then the requirement came in 2003 in terms of the signage for stub streets going through.
I was curious about that because I have a stub street in my subdivision and it doesn't have that. And I've seen it in other places where they don't have that. But that explains the timing because most of the subdivisions are older and they were late 90s type developments. So that makes perfect sense. Any questions or comments?
Comment.
Yes, sir.
A couple of things here. First of all, I being on the planning and zoning, the narrower lots was a concern, okay? But one of the things that I think overcame that concern was the fact that these lots are going to be 7,000 square foot lots, which is basically what we require. Now, the lot might look different than what we're accustomed to, might be narrower, but it still is the 7,000 square foot minimum. The second thing is, I was incredibly impressed both times with your presentation on traffic. And as I mentioned at the planning and zoning, I think the developer wants to be a good neighbor. I think they're going to do all they can, but then I think they're also limited by county regulations and county restrictions on what they can and cannot do outside of their, area. So what I propose is that if we do accept this CUP, and this does go through, that we as a council, somewhat agree that there needs to be some things done for the folks in this subdivision to alleviate, some of the problems. And specifically, I think the two biggest ones are the stop signs on Horseshoe Bend, the main drag, and then also a very, very needed stoplight at Dingledine and Towers. That is an extremely, extremely busy area out there. And I really think if there was a stoplight there, it would, possibly discourage some folks from cutting through, simply because they wouldn't have to wait in traffic and make that left turn.
Okay. Mr. Hammond.
I just want to, I guess it's more directed to the county executive, but O'Fallon has been pretty successful in some of these long stretch roads by putting in some dips, and I think they work quite well in some of the subdivisions, similar to what their problem is with this long stretch, and I wish we would consider doing that in some of the developments.
We'll get Craig in here next meeting or something to talk to you about it. All right.
Okay.
Deer Creek's got one.
I think, I agree with you, Dave, and I believe it'd be a good test strip to try one in our county.
There's one on Deer Creek, which is partly constructed by county, that's got dips where it goes through O'Fallon, and I think that's working pretty well. So.
There's one on Turtle Creek Drive going into Turtle Creek towards the golf course that exists.
They actually have them all over O'Fallon, and from time to time I forget they're there, and I'm reminded when I hit it. So it does make you slow down. All right, any other questions, comments? No. With that, we will conclude the public comment on this portion. Oh, my bad. Did I completely skip that part? I did. No, we did. He didn't have a speaker's card on this one?
If you did, I didn't see it, sorry.
I did put it in.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he probably did. So, Mr. Dienoff, come on up and let's do a clean sweep of 404. That way I can cash in on my over-under because I called 4 at the beginning of the night, just for the record, for those scoring at home. Mr. Swanson, just in case you're doing that. Mr. Dinoff.
I'll ask for a little respect. We don't need the comments back and forth. I'm here to do a duty just like you are, and that's all I'm
I
asking
understand.
for is some courteous respect both ways, and that's not respectful, Mr. Chairman.
You're right, it's not. You're good to go.
I don't need to go through that belligerent and embarrassment every meeting.
You have the time to speak right now. You can use it for this, or we can move on.
Thank you very much, members of the council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, County Public Advocate. The first thing I'd like to touch upon is hundreds of letters, emails, phone calls have been in opposition through these 3 other past public hearings. I just wanted to get off right at the top so I don't repeat myself. Over the past 3 public hearings, I'd like my previous and prior public hearing testimony from the past months to be on the record. I want to put on the record that Sanford Farm is in the city of St. Charles. It is about building a responsible, stable county that we need. We don't want to cut corners, and especially in this situation. We need guarantees, and I think the residents have testified before planning and zoning and before this county council that they demand guarantees of no multifamily housing. This conditional use permit opens up the door to multifamily housing opportunities if this developer goes bankrupt, goes back to the bank, and gets sold to another home developer. And so we want to make sure that there's a conditional use, or a condition in the permit to guard against and guarantee that we don't have multifamily building. Our county code is at stake here. You're going to waive the rules for this developer when other people play by the rules. I want to instill and make sure that you turn down their 60-foot request for the frontage of these property lots and instill our 70-foot lot requirement of the frontage. The side setbacks, they want 6 feet. I ask that you instill the 7-foot requirement. I contacted the Cottleville Fire Protection District, and they have problems with this subdivision. They have problems with their fire district, which adopted the International Building Code, which requires setbacks, and in lieu of, the fire marshal told me the fire district would demand fire separation walls at each dwelling, which will increase dramatically the cost of this subdivision. All the residents in neighboring subdivisions and homeowner associations are opposed to the density and the possibility of opening up the door to apartments. There are water control and release, filtration, detention, and retention issues with this property. Our codified code, it's there for a reason. I believe it's chapter 410. To reverse this law for minimum frontage, of the minimum frontage from 70 to 60, it's just not in the best interest of the adjoining neighborhoods or our county as a whole. I ask that this county, let's all use some common sense here. Let's talk about and listen about the safety concerns. Let's take a common responsibility component here. The health, safety, and general welfare, which you all were elected, and you took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution, and that being of general health, safety, and welfare of all residents. Instill some minimum standards, protect property owner values, protect special districts and local government when providing vital community services. The meaning of a conditional use permit from several sources, Mr. Myers can even tell you if I'm telling you the truth or not, but the planning experts and planning consultants say the definition and the meaning of conditional use permit is intended to allow the establishment of those uses which have some special impact or uniqueness such that their effect on the surrounding environment can be detrimental or can be determined in advance of use being proposed for a particular location. There are 0 land challenges that I heard in any testimony through the 3 or 4 public hearings. There is 0 uniqueness from the applicant. I point to which we went over numerous hearings and hundreds of testimony opposed to the Whitaker Reserve on the Bluffs, which you approved. That had uniqueness. That had steep grades, ravines. This property is flat for the most part and doesn't put or confine those type of challenges. The bottom line here is zero uniqueness has not been proven at all during any of these public hearings. And that's what the meaning of a conditional use permit states. The bottom line is profits. So what? The applicant loses $300,000 in profits. Is it really necessary to give up profits over our residents? That's the question that you have to ask. You as the sitting county council are in the driver's seat. Think about residents over profits and instill and uphold the county codified code. Stop giving away the store. It's unfair, it's wrong, and it's unjust. We have minimum requirements there to have some stance of a stable, valuable, and viable community. Let's not cut our residents short. Let's set the example for the state of Missouri and for the nation. Let's do the right thing in this case. I ask that you uphold the frontage minimum and the side setback minimums. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Dienoff? No. Nope, okay. So with that, we will conclude the public, I'm sorry, Mr. White, I didn't see you.
Mr. Weber has a chance to come up and question Mr. Dienoff.
Come on up, Drew. He's bringing in reinforcements, too. With that, you're going to have to be sworn in.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. For the record, my name's Skip Stone with Pinnacle Land Development, address 10328 Lake Bluff Drive, St. Louis, Missouri.
Hi, Skip.
Thank you.
I brought Skip up to address a couple of the comments that he can do better than I can. As a preliminary matter, I want to clarify a few things about the zoning. So you saw from my first zoning map that this property is R1A, all the surrounding properties are R1A. That's single-family zoning. So to assuage any fears, there's no possibility of any multifamily buildings being on this property. And the master plan calls for 1 to 4 units per acre. As I said, we're proposing basically 3 units per acre. Now, the comments about the street lights, I think Skip wants to address those. I think from a legal perspective, I don't know, I may need to work with Mr. O'Sullivan to get whatever approvals would be needed to do stuff outside of our property line, but we'll do whatever's necessary and required.
Yeah, excuse me, thank you. And I do want to commend Mr. Basala. He is, we've spoken to him several times, and he's always come with facts, and I do think that there's opportunities to work with him to make their place a safer subdivision. In regards to that, at P&Z, we said, and we continue to say that, if working with the highway department, a stop sign's warranted, we're more than happy to install stop signs throughout their neighborhood. The street lighting issue came up. If there's a way when we're doing our Ameren lighting plan that we can find a way, and I assume we'd need a permit from the county to do work within the right-of-way, but if there's a way we can facilitate them getting additional street lighting, if that's what's needed and warranted, we're happy to do that kind of stuff. And so we will continue to work with county staff as well as communicate with them and try to make it a better place for everybody. So I just really want to say that.
That's music to our ears.
Is there anything else you want to add?
That's all we have. Happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you for clarifying.
All right.
Skip,
Thank
thanks
you,
for
John.
coming up. Robert, you have anything further to add? No. So I think, unless I hear objection, we can close public comment portion and close the hearing on this, public hearing on this particular development. With that, I know we've bounced around a lot on the agenda, so on my scorecard, I show oral report from the county executive.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to report that can't wait 2 weeks.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
We don't have anything from Parks that we needed to talk about tonight? I'm just asking. No? Okay. We're moving forward. So that gets us to a consent agenda. Any items to be removed from the consent agenda, or do I entertain a motion?
Move to accept.
Move to accept. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is done. With that, we move on to bills for final passage. Bill number 4948.
Bill number 4948, an ordinance amending the 2021 budget adopted by ordinance 20-094 as amended for a position within the St. Charles County Family Court 11th Judicial Circuit.
I appreciate department heads sticking through all of that just to wait to find out that their item on the consent agenda was approved. So I appreciate you being here. Any questions or comments about Bill 4948?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Simmons is here if there are any. Juvenile court.
I'm sorry?
The bill that's up, he's here if you have any questions of him.
Oh, does anyone have any questions?
No.
He's hiding in the back.
You never know who people are when they wear masks all the time, so you know. Those people who dress in dark, you never really know. So seeing none, please call the roll.
Bill number 4948, an ordinance amending the 2021 budget adopted by ordinance 20-094 as amended for a position within the St. Charles County Family Court 11th Judicial Circuit. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Bill number 4948 passes. You can sneak out if you want now after sneaking in or sitting there for hours on end. We'll move on to bill number 4949.
Bill number 4949, an ordinance approving a first amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Wentzville for construction of new roadway, Wentzville Parkway South.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, call the roll.
An ordinance approving a first amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Wentzville for construction of new roadway, Wentzville Parkway South. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel? Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Bill number 4949 passes. We will move on to bill number 4950.
Bill number 4950, an ordinance approving execution of cost apportionment agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission to coordinate the participation of St. Charles County in the cost of the Commission's public improvement for I-70 in St. Charles County, which includes mowing and litter pickup along I-70 from the Warren County line to the Missouri River, job number WMSCF21Q.
Questions or comments about this? I appreciate Mr. Cronin letting the mowing thing just slide right by.
Yeah, I'll still vote no.
There you go. So with that, call the roll, please.
An ordinance approving execution of cost apportionment agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission to coordinate the participation of St. Charles County in the cost of the Commission's public improvement for I-70 in St. Charles County, which includes mowing and litter pickup along I-70 from the Warren County line to the Missouri River, job number WMSCF21Q. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
No.
Councilmember Brazel? Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes. Bill number 4950 passes on to bill number 4951.
Bill number 4951, an ordinance to name or rename several parks within the St. Charles County Parks and Recreation Department pursuant to Section 100.170 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri.
Any questions or comments about this? Do you want to say anything?
Go home.
We talked about it last meeting.
Did we reveal the name of the park and everything, right?
Yeah.
Kinetic.
Yeah, go home.
So we did that. Do you have anything quick that you want to show? Come on, I know you want to show this, that's why. He's been waiting for this. So we talked about the name, but we didn't really talk about logos and all that kind of stuff, so just wanted to give him the opportunity. Come on, he doesn't get a chance to do this often, so I don't want to just skip right through it.
Maybe.
There it is.
Present to you Kinetic Park.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kinetic
Looks
Park,
good.
St. Charles County, formerly Youth Activity Park.
I love that.
Well, I'm getting ahead of myself because we haven't done that yet,
Yeah.
so there you go.
There you go.
Cool. I wanted to give you the opportunity to showcase that design, and I know Mary's staff will be getting the word out and showing all the stuff about that and letting everybody know what's going on. So, Ryan, you've been here for almost 3 hours. I wanted you at least have the opportunity to show the logo. So with that, can we call the roll?
Bill number 4951, an ordinance to name or rename several parks within the St. Charles County Parks and Recreation Department pursuant to Section 100.170 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri. Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel? Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Bill number 4951 passes. Congratulations, it is officially Kinetic Park. Yay!
Are those
And-
click-clack balls on the logo? Are those click-clack balls on the logo?
He doesn't know what click-clack
Remember
balls are,
click-
so there you go.
Okay.
You didn't, we used to have those as a kid, and we actually had competitions with them, but you were lucky enough to miss that, and if you had those today, you would probably be sued by someone, so there you go. Bill number 4952.
Bill number 4952, an ordinance authorizing the Director of Administration as designee of the County Executive to execute a second amendment to lease agreement between St. Charles County and St. Charles Community College for College Meadows Park.
Any questions or comments about this? It is Parks time in our agenda. Yes, ma'am, move forward.
An ordinance authorizing the Director of Administration as designee of the County Executive to execute a second amendment to lease agreement between St. Charles County and St. Charles Community College for College Meadows Park. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel? Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Schneider?
Yes.
That wraps up bills for final passage. We move on to bills for introduction, starting with bill number 4956.
Bill number 4956, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to C2 General Commercial District as per application RZ 21-04.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, we move on to 4957.
Bill number 4957, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 21-05.
Questions or comments about this one? Seeing none, we move on to 4958.
Bill number 4958, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Nancy Schneider, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District with floodway and floodway fringe overlay districts to RF Riverfront District with floodway and floodway fringe overlay districts as per application RZ 21-06.
Mr. Cronin, did you have something?
I thought that these gentlemen might be the fellow folks on the 6-acre lot. Is that correct? If you wanted to speak at all? Okay, good.
Planning and zoning approved by a 9-0 vote that particular.
Well, I'm
thing.
fine with it. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that they sat patiently for
They
several
were
hours here.
very
They
patient.
didn't want to say anything, because this was going
You
pretty quick.
put 3 hours in here after, what, 12 hours at a planning and zoning meeting? It was probably a quick one, only 12, so there you go. All right, thanks for being here. So move on to bill number 4959.
Bill number 4959, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Cronin, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 21-07.
Any questions or comments about this bill? Seeing none, we'll move on to bill number 4960.
Bill number 4960, requested by Amanda Brower, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance approving execution of a congestion mitigation and air quality agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission to coordinate the participation of St. Charles County in the cost of the commission's public improvement for automated traffic signal performance, signal optimizations on Mid-Rivers Mall Drive from I-70 North Outer Road to South St. Peter's Parkway.
Any questions or comments about 4960? Seeing none, we'll move to 4961.
Bill number 4961, requested by Amanda Brower, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance approving execution of a congestion mitigation and air quality agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission to coordinate the participation of St. Charles County in the cost of the commission's public improvement for automated traffic signal performance modules, signal optimizations on Bryan Road from West Terra Lane to Route N, and on Wentzville Parkway from Route A to I-70 Veterans Memorial Parkway.
Any questions or comments about this one? Seeing none, we'll move on to 4962.
Bill number 4962, requested by Michelle McBride, sponsored by Mike Elam, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a third amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the city of O'Fallon for collection and disbursement of the city's water line service repair fees.
Any questions or comments about 4962? Seeing none, we move to 4963.
Bill number 4963, requested by Lori Myers, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Missouri Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development and the St. Charles County Department of Workforce and Business Development related to the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act PY21 annual agreement.
Any questions or comments about 4963? That wraps up that. We've already dealt with Bill number 4964 earlier in the agenda, so that will wrap up bills for introduction. No action to be taken on the tabled bills, which gets us to announcements and miscellaneous. Donna, does that need to be read? The April 23rd, 2021 county registers?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
All right. On April 23rd, 2021, the County Registrar's Office received the Circuit Clerk's order and judgment in the matter of property owners' vote to abolish the Salt Lick Transportation Development District pursuant to the Missouri Transportation Development District Act, Section 238.216.6. The St. Charles County Circuit Clerk's certification and documents listed below have been filed with the records held by the County Registrar and are hereby spread upon the records of the County Council. 1. Order and judgment dated March 3rd, 2021. 2. Election Authority Certificate dated January 26, 2021.
Thank you. With that, we'll open it up for announcements and miscellaneous. Mr. Cronin?
I just have something I want to report real quick. 2 county employees, a director and a county recorder, did something I thought was pretty remarkable on Sunday. At 2:30 Sunday, a citizen in my district contacted me and was having trouble on a computer researching land records. So I don't like to procrastinate in this stuff. So at 3 o'clock, I sent out an email to the director of IS and the recorder saying, this gentleman's having some problems. Could you please help him out when you get time? At 3:15, so I said, 2:30 I got contacted. At 3 o'clock I replied. 3:15, Mr. Seeds, the director of IS, had a solution for the problem, okay? And then at 5 o'clock, Ms. Dempsey, our recorder, had fixed the problem permanently so citizens won't have that problem again. So, I mean, I was like, wow. I mean, that was pretty remarkable that in a matter of, a matter of 45 minutes, Mr. Seeds had it fixed. And then within a matter of a few hours on a Sunday afternoon, they went from a citizen complaint to a resolution to a solution that will never happen again. So I wanted to shout out to the recorder and to Mr. Seeds. Y'all did a heck of a job on a Sunday afternoon.
Excellent. Very good.
Impressive.
Does anyone have anything else that you want to add? I have something I want to do if you don't. County Executive?
Chairman, yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to go ahead and thank Dimitri Cianci Chapman, who's attending his last council meeting.
I'm glad we can make it a quick one for you.
And you all know that Dimitri, well, what's it been, 18 months now? Seems like a long, long time. It's been
the longest 18 months of his life.
It's been a tough year. He and I both have been through a lot, as have you all, over the last year, and everybody on staff. And it's been a challenge. I want to thank him for his untiring efforts. And, we're going to have to hire several people, I think, to replace his energy. And I don't know, thing I think I'm most proud of for him is what's been happening the last few months down at the Family Arena with our vaccinations.
Yeah.
I have received so many people have told me just how that has gone so well. Had a few problems right at first, but you've done a great job of organizing that. You've done a great job of advising me on the medical evidence throughout this pandemic. We've had a lot of great discussions. We've had a lot of opportunities to communicate. I'll always remember you, and I will again. I know that you're going to go and finish your degree, which at your age is going to be a real challenge. Because when I was your age, I went back to law school, and you're going to be around a bunch of young kids, maybe, I don't know. But I want to wish you all the luck on that, and wherever you end up, whether it's in the Hoosier State or back here someday, good luck to you, and thanks for everything.
Yes.
I believe it was Casey, thanks for staying the entire meeting, and that was a really good prayer, but I thought it was funny, you talked about the gray hairs on the people who are up here, and I thought, man, I'd be happy if they'd stay gray and stay, but they turn gray and turn loose, and that's where it starts bothering me. I would notice that our health director seems to be much slimmer than he was when he walked in here some 18 months ago, so I assume that's because you're living right and not because of all the stress that's happened over the last 16 or so months. But I also understand that over the past year and a half, one of the most left jobs, quit jobs, resigned jobs in county government all across the United States is the director of health. Because if there is one job next to being a county executive or a governor or a mayor somewhere, it's a health director, because one thing I can guarantee you of, you are definitely not going to be appreciated. Whether you're right or whether you're wrong, you're going to make a whole bunch of people mad no matter what you say. So there is a no-win in that position. I think you've done an amazing job. Mr. Holler and I were just talking to each other about the family arena and that setup, and I think that is a model for everyone to follow, and it's done really, really well. I am actually pleasantly surprised, we'll say, about the vaccination rate of St. Charles County. I really didn't figure it to be that high for the other counties around us. I believe we're pushing 41%.
We are, and I do have to note that I realized today that 1 out of every 4 vaccinations that our citizenry have gotten has been given by the 6 nurses and many volunteers at the family arena.
Wow. So it's been amazing. We wish you and your family the very best. We're sorry to lose you, but I know you're going on to bigger and better. At least you're going to have your family together, and that is going to get rid of a whole lot of stress, and that will explain the weight loss when you get back together. You're going to put it all back on when you get happy and start eating together again. With that, does anyone else have anything for the common good? Make a motion?
I'm not making a motion, I want to make a comment.
Oh, by all means, go ahead.
There we go.
I've been hurrying things all night long, John, so go ahead.
All right, between last meeting and this meeting, there was an event that took place in southwest St. Charles County in the wine region, and it was a plein air. And what a plein air is, a contest where artists come from all over the country to paint subjects in our county, you know, basically in the wine region. And there was, I think it's a compliment to our county that so many people want to come, artists from all over, to paint something in our county. And it was so well organized, even with the virus. It was so well participated and so well organized. I want to compliment the artists and all the participants and the organizers. It was a great plein air this year. And that's it.
Fantastic. I would just, for the record, one more time, because we talked about a lot of stuff tonight, I think we're really blessed to live in St. Charles County. I just wanted to make that one more time and say that publicly. Sometimes you don't appreciate your own backyard, and I think, John, pointing out events like that is a really great thing, because sometimes if it happens in your backyard, you don't think it's that great, but sometimes it's just nice to step back, get a broader view, and appreciate the blessings that you have around you. So that was well spoken. With that, I would entertain a motion to dismiss. Motion moved, let's keep going. All those in favor?
Joe.
It is
We're dismissed.
early to consider planning and zoning. It's early.